It's the first Monday in the last month of the year. Welcome on board the AM show. My name is Pakwesi Shandoff. Now, this morning, when we get to the paper review, as always, the executive director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleiman Abrahima, is going to be our guest, where we delve into trending stories in the dailies. Also, in the big stories, Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tuayibwa says that the office of the Attorney General cannot be compromised in the ongoing trial of the founder of the defunct Capital Bank, William Atu-Essien. Presiding judge in the trial, Justice Eric Chebuafo, had rejected the terms of settlement reached between state prosecutors and Atu-Essien on basis that the law and indeed the state does not allow for such arrangements, and therefore his refusal. Will be delving into that substantive issue as well. But the AG's office is again disputing. We'll walk into that. Now, today on the AM show, we also engage the AG on that particular subject matter, and in a more specific manner, the consequences for the accused who comes to court under plea of a bargain. We also speak to Kweku Pintil, who is a legal practitioner. Then Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta today is expected to give an update on the state of Ghana's economy later in the morning. We'll hear from John Gachi, the Dean of the UCC School of Business, as well as Professor Lord Mensah, who is a lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. We've got another installment of Drive Safe on the show as well. And then the Ghana Free Zones Board Authority will also join us for an enthralling conversation. They will tell us on how to take advantage of the investment week. Now, still in the show, President Akufo-Addo has justified So that is going to be basically the run for this morning's conversation. As always, you can get interactive with us across our social media platforms. Then in the course of the show as well, we'll open the phone lines for you to share your thoughts. You take a breather now. When we come back, the news is next. It's now time to serve you the news. Now, President Akufo-Addo has justified the government's increased investments in its free senior high school policy despite the country's economic challenges. He says the policy has proven more impactful than what existed previously based on the performance of free SHS beneficiary in the past to UATSI. The president maintained that guaranteed access to education is critical to national development. Nanaya Ojima was at the 70th anniversary celebration of Opokowari School, where the president spoke and filed this report.
According to the president, 1.3 million children have benefited from the free SHS policy, which comes with its own challenges. He enumerated some successes chalked with respect to the examination results of some beneficiaries.
I can state without equivocation that I'm very proud of the policy and of its results thus far. Yes, there have been challenges associated with this policy, for which government has addressed substantially many of them. And there will be more in the course of time. Such is the nature of social evolution, so that at every stage, the challenges will be met. Lest we forget, the 2021 batch of students who also obtained very commendable results were the pioneers of the double-track system, which elicited a lot of vilification and unfounded criticism on its introduction. Indeed, the pass rate in the free senior high school era has seen systematic improvements over the pre-free senior high school era, and the 2022 results are the best of the last 8 years. Surely, there can no longer be any controversy about the validity of the free senior high school policy and its consequential measures. It is working and working well.
In spite of current economic challenges, budgetary allocation for the policy implementation has increased from 2.3 billion cedis to 2.96 billion cedis. The president has called for support in the implementation of outlined policies of the government.
That in spite of the economic difficulties confronting our nation, government has devoted even more resources for the running of the free senior high school policy. From a budget of 2.3 billion cedis in 2022, a 28.6% increase has been applied to this year's budget for free SHS, i.e. 2.96 billion cedis.
The 70th anniversary of Opokuwari School was attended by Asantehene Otumfuo Osei Tutu II, among other dignitaries. It was on the theme 7 Decades of Leadership Through Self-Discipline. Management of the school is calling on the government to resume a renovation project that has stalled for months. Headmaster Reverend Father Stephen Osusechere spoke at the ceremony.
We extend a word of gratitude to all past members of management and staff who, over the years, through dedication and commitment to duty, have contributed to the success stories of this school. With hearts full of gratitude, we acknowledge the hard work of the current members of management and staff. We appreciate you for holding on to the legacy of your predecessors. Please continue to remain focused and work hard to bring our school to greater heights.
Already, old students of the school are devoting resources into an investment account to support future renovation projects. For JoyNews, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
Now, even before government announces modalities for its planned debt restructuring, former President John Dramani Mahama is predicting that any decision on debt operation is going to worsen the plight of the private sector. His warning is coming at a time when government had assured that all treasury bills and bondholders will be spared from the debt operations. But addressing the 13th congregation of the Accra Business School, John Mahama said that cannot be true.
The public sector, which, by the way, government is telling us is full, employs less than 1 million people of our country's labor force. So if our labor force is 18-point-something million, and the public sector takes only 1 million or less, then you can understand the context in which I'm talking. Unfortunately, thriving parastatals that were flourishing a few years ago have been run into the ground by political appointees who have mismanaged the affairs of the state-owned enterprises. This constrains further the ability of the public sector to employ. Let me put our situation in a better context. Compensation costs in our budget for 2022 was estimated at 55.3% of tax revenue. It means of all the taxes we collect, we spend 55.3% to pay wages and salaries in the public sector alone. Amortization and interest payments consume the rest of our taxes, and even requires that we borrow to cover the total cost. This situation has compelled government this year, in the 2023 budget, to announce a freeze, or should I say a ban, on public sector employment. This makes the situation rather dire for you. It means the opportunities for employment for your cohorts can only be found in the private sector or through self-employment. That's the reality you face. Unfortunately, due to mismanagement and reckless expenditure by government over the past 5 years, the private business environment is also in a very poor state today. An ambassador of a European country who called on me recently noted that 7 companies from her country that had existed in Ghana have closed their businesses and left Ghana completely. And she also said some others have moved their offices from our dear country, Ghana, to Cote d'Ivoire. Only recently, you must have heard that Game, a retail outlet from South Africa, has announced that it's closing all its retail outlets in Ghana. Today, businesses are folding up as investors cut their losses in the wake of an almost collapsed economy.
Now, in barely 2 weeks, the opposition National Democratic Congress will be slugging it out to elect a new crop of national officers. Now, one of the positions that promises to present a close context will be that of the chairmanship. Currently, the General Secretary, Johnson Asiedu-Nketia, is seeking to unseat the current chairman, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo. Joseph Akablay of our political desk has some report on this development.
Fellow Akatamansonians, comrades, friends, and sympathizers of our great party, the National Democratic Congress. Here is your general.
Johnson Asiedu-Nketia faces stiff competition from Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, Niyama Ashite, and Samuel Yawedusei. The man nicknamed General Mosquito traces his political journey from his time as a member of parliament for the Winti West constituency to taking over as General Secretary in 2005, a position he has since held on to.
It has been heartwarming, the level of support I have received in the course of my work for the party. And I thank you, NDC members, for consistently returning me to power with over 80% endorsement throughout the country.
His critics, however, say he cannot escape blame for the party's abysmal performance in 2016 when it lost power and 2020 when it failed to win the polls. The General Secretary, however, believes his tenure of office has been largely successful.
The first truly democratic elections of this party were held in Koforidua. And a whole lot of national executives were voted out. That was where I came onto the scene. I did not see the defeated comrades as enemies. We kept communicating with them and encouraging them to abandon the new party they had formed to come back to their fold. That was what led to the merger of the NDP back into NDC. DFP back into NDC. It means the NDP is on the way. NDC internationally and forge closer ties with like-minded progressive parties across the globe. As a result, the NDC has the distinction of holding the vice presidential position of Socialist International.
The race with Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo took off on quite an acrimonious note. Mr. Nketia has questioned the chairman's cooperation with other executives during his tenure, especially on the decision to withdraw from the Ayawaso West Wagon by-elections.
He admits that he called me. But what is economical about me, say, he never told the press, he said, offer me objective vehemently, say, he shouldn't take that decision. He must have consulted President Mahama. But President Mahama called me and said, say, Chairman, person take his decision, I shouldn't allow that decision to be taken. I see. And yet about Ebu, it's about decision making. And to be baby now can me consult we. Now can't public no say me consult one more objective, but I went ahead to take that decision because I thought it was in the best interest of the party.
So there cannot be any fact to say, and in that case, if we did not collate results, the chief executive of the party is the general secretary. He runs the party day to day. All the departments of the party under him, they report directly to him. So if he's coming to contest me, why do you single the chairman out and say the chairman should be held responsible? No, but I'm saying that people have their jobs cut out for them.
Another allegation General Mosquito's campaign had to deal with was claims of the award of the party's electronic payment contracts to his son, an allegation that has been dismissed. He remains focused and greatly tipped to be a front runner for his record as a winning candidate anytime he makes the ballot.
I'll lead my colleagues as your chairman to make the NDC a formidable, attractive, and modern organization that will be the party of choice for the teeming masses of Ghanaians, the youth, the women, the vulnerable in society, and people from all walks of life and background.
Now, Interior Minister Ambrose Derry has expressed worry over the smuggling of foodstuffs out of the country to neighboring countries, notably Burkina Faso and Nigeria. Speaking at the regional celebration of Farmers' Day at Nandom, Ambrose Derry noted that due to the various subsidies put in place by the government, which has reduced the cost of foodstuffs in the country, unscrupulous profiteers are taking advantage of the situation for their own good. JoyNews' Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam has more from Nandom.
This year's National Farmers' Day celebration took place in the Eastern region. However, the event was marked in the other 15 regions and all metropolitan, municipal, and districts in the country. Nandom, the capital of the Nandom municipality, played host to the Upper West Region celebration and chaired by the paramount chief of the Nandom traditional area, now Professor Nguyen the Eighth. The celebration was on the theme of celebrating agricultural development through value addition, with the sub-theme promoting market linkage through value addition. Interior Minister Ambrose Derry expressed worry about the smuggling of foodstuffs into neighboring countries. According to him, foodstuffs in Burkina Faso are more expensive than in Ghana. Food produced in Ghana are highly subsidized through various government programs, which has resulted in good harvest over the years. Unscrupulous and profiteers seize the opportunity to smuggle foodstuffs and other products into neighboring countries, notable Burkina Faso.
So we've had good harvest over the years. I'll be the first to admit that we need to do more. But even what we have produced is being smuggled to Burkina Faso and other countries. As far as Nigeria, trucks coming here to buy our produce, and also they use unapproved goods.
Ambrose Derry, who also doubles as a legislator for Nandom, however urged the people of Nandom to help stop the smuggling of foodstuffs through their farms by reporting to the appropriate security agencies.
But I want to say that we citizens of Nandom must be the #1 defense and protectors of our own food that we produce. If we allow them to pass through our villages, to pass through our farms, and send our food away, that is not good enough. I want to entreat you to work hard with me and the security agencies to stop that development. Foodstuff is more expensive in Burkina Faso than it is here.
Turning to his role as Interior Minister, Ambrose Derry appeals to the people to report all suspected foreigners who comes into the country to the security agencies.
I want to again appeal to all of you to cooperate with the security agencies. Report all suspicious foreigners who come in. I want you to be patient with the officers of immigration when they want to check who is a foreigner in your buses. And I also entreat the officers to also make their activities above board and not be exploitative.
Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Sali urged farmers to avoid traditional methods of farming.
Now, the Vice Chancellor of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology says it has become crucial for the country to focus on raising transformational leaders to ensure accelerated economic growth. Professor Rita Akosia-Dixon believes equipping the youth with the needed skills will lead to the realization of this goal. He spoke at the maiden online leadership and coaching course by the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. There's more in the following report.
The online leadership and coaching course will feature models such as leadership communication and ethics in leadership, which will be facilitated by resource persons with practical knowledge in these fields. According to the director of the KNUST e-learning center, Professor Eric Apu Asante, the course is in line with KNUST Vice Chancellor's vision to churn out good leaders for the country.
All the infrastructure that the KNUST e-learning center has is going to be deployed effectively to support you, both facilitators and participants, to have a very smooth engagement online. We know that there are certainly a few drop-ups that might show up from your end, but we want to encourage you to take advantage of the arrangement for backups that we have done. And that is to say that we are going to look at both synchronous live sections like this and asynchronous sections.
The Vice Chancellor of KNUST, Professor Retta Kusia-Dixon, commended the Center for the initiative and asked the participants to be self-disciplined and responsible.
I've always been a believer of the fact that, well, you could decide to disagree with me, but I believe in that school of thought, that everything rises and falls on leadership. If we can get it right, we must get leadership right. And that is why, as Vice Chancellor of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, working with my leadership, we are very keen and very much interested in how to build the capacity of the future leaders of this country. One thing that keeps us awake at night as a university is that to be on our mandate, we want to ensure that consistently we are training and raising transformational leaders. Leaders who will affect society by the kind of leadership that they provide to humanity. Not just for the university, not just for our dear country, Ghana, not just for the continent of Africa, but also for the globe.
Reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Deborah.
Thanks for your company this morning. For more, log on to www.myjoyonline.com. My name is Pakwesi Shandov. Do have a pleasant day. Bye-bye. Well, a very good morning to you. Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. Time now for us to get into this stack of papers right here and let you know what they have to say. Joining us for the conversation, Suleimana Brahima, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. Mr. Brahima, very good morning to you. It's the start of a new week. How are you, sir?
Very well. Good morning, Ben. Well, we look forward to a great week.
Yes, indeed, we do. Quite a lot to talk about. We're going to hear from Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta this morning at around 8 o'clock. Hopefully 8 o'clock will be 8 o'clock. But there's also the bit about the debacle of the Black Stars and how they crumbled in Qatar after a pretty good showing against South Korea. In fact, Portugal and South Korea. What's your assessment? We've heard so many things from the camp, some of which I can't repeat here this morning. But what do you make generally of our performance in Qatar before we get into other stories?
Well, overall, I think that it was an impressive performance, considering the fact that I didn't have so much expectations from the team. In fact, I was surprised with the performance they put up against Portugal. I thought it was going to be just, some multiple goals against us, but it turned out not to be so. Against South Korea, it was great. And that gave me a bit of expectations in terms of our game against Uruguay. But
and then it was an anticlimax.
Yes, exactly. But overall, given the caliber of players we have, I wasn't expecting that they would be able to even perform the way they did.
Right.
And so I think it's just time for us to reflect, prepare, build a solid team. The reality is that at this stage, we really don't have real stars. If you look at the caliber of players we took to the 2010, 2014, the Stephen Appiahs, Suleiman Taris, Michael Exians, those days you could feel, look, we have players who are really playing in the big teams out there. But sometimes they mention somebody.
But Suleimana, we still have a few. We still have a few of them plying their trade. You cannot miss out on, well, Dede may be playing where he is, outside and all of that, but he's a big player. We can talk about, what's his name, Thomas Partey. And you see, those are some of the problems because people have felt that these players, at least the 2, 3, 4 of them who may fit the boots of the Essien and the Stephen Appiahs and the Asamoah from back then, are simply not making the cut. Kudus Mohammed was performing, in Europe long before this tournament. And we cannot say that he did not perform, but I guess the expectations were more. Thomas Partey, for me, was simply AWOL throughout this tournament. It wasn't the Thomas Partey netting from all angles and, solid in defense, in fact, in midfield and able to defend as well. I did not see that of him. So, in essence, I don't know whether that description aptly fits the situation.
Well, Ben, you're right. But the reality is that, look, I mean, Dede, as you mentioned, Dede is playing in Qatar. And that's our captain. And so and I don't think that any really top form player would opt to be playing in Qatar or UAE instead of playing in the La Liga, Bundesliga,
Serie A,
the Premier League, and
right.
so on. So I mean, certainly he started from there, and if he's on top form, there's no way he'll be there without these big teams chasing to have him, and that's
right.
our captain. Then we have Jordan. Yes, Thomas Partey is featuring quite big, and he reminds me of Kwadwo Asamoah. Top form when he's out there, but in the Black Stars jersey, then you don't really see him performing. I don't know whether it's deliberate. I don't want to get injured, and then lose out in playing for where I make the biggest money and all of that. So Thomas Partey really was quite disappointing. But otherwise, he's one player that we could have looked up to in terms of, a player that we say, playing in the top league and should be on form and all of that. But we didn't get that. And so generally, there are players that they mention as, where does he play? Okay, this one, I haven't heard of him before. So it was almost a case of trying hard to pull together a team to go and play. And on that basis, I think that it wasn't a bad performance. It wasn't one that one should be too shy about. After all, Germany, of all, teams exited.
Yeah, they passed out.
Exactly. And so, from a sense of patriotism, we would have wished that they went far. But the reality is that we didn't have the team to be able to do what we ought to do. It was great that we exited together with Uruguay, because Uruguay is always a team that would always remind us of what happened, in that game. So, kudos to them. They've done their part, and we can only build a better team for the next editions.
Alrighty, let's get into the papers now. Let's find out what they have to share with us. Daily Graphic this morning saying, WASSCE results best in 8 years. That's according to the president's story on page 16. I'll be getting into that and taking your reflection based on what he says, which makes these results the best, and in fact, which warrants or justifies free SHS. Government graphic partnership to produce paper laudable. That's according to the ICU. Upgrade Council of State to upper chamber. Sam Okujato, member of the Council of State, says so, but this is no new call. This has been said time without number. Even in recent times, we've heard former President Kufuor say it. I was here on TV and I was joined by Nana Dr. SKB Asante. He also had his own. In fact, he made mention of the fact that, if you recall, Suleimana, he was head of that team of experts that put together the 1992 Constitution. And he says, even then, there had been some thoughts on the arrangements for the Council of State. Unfortunately, some of what they proffered were jettisoned, rejected. So this is not a new call, really. Government outlines debt exchange program, seeks to reduce high public debt, and Treasury bills are safe, we are told. So let's get into some of those stories. I'll start with this one about a debt exchange program. So the government has settled on a softer payment plan with institutions and individuals who have lent money to the country as part of efforts to reduce the burden of the public debt stock what the public debt stock puts on the economy. The plan, which is in line with the government's commitment to restore macroeconomic stability in the shortest possible time, involves the swapping of existing domestic bonds with longer dated bonds that will take between 4 and 14 years to mature in 2037. This means the extension of the repayment period for the bonds issued and held locally to allow for a staggered and phased payment of both the interest and the principal. Now, the plan, known as the Ghana Domestic Debt Exchange Program, would see domestic bondholders being asked to exchange their instruments for new ones. Now, in a public broadcast last night, the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, said under the program, existing domestic bonds as of December the 1st, 2020, would be exchanged for a set of 4 new bonds maturing in, note, 2027, 2029, 2032, and 2037. That's how long it's going to take. The annual coupon, that is interest on all the new bonds, would be set at 0 in 2023, which meant that next year none of the bonds would receive interest payment due the holders until at maturity, he said. However, in 2024, the bonds would assume 5% interest, 10% in 2025 until maturity, he added. And we've been told now that it will not affect Treasury bills and that it's not going to be on the principal. What's your quick reflection on this? Because I've seen reactions on social media. In fact, if I may just pull, I believe I took a snapshot of this from, was it Franklin Kujo? Franklin Kujo of Imani Africa, just so you can respond to that. Yesterday, I saw him post, "I have owed you 1,000 cedis since January. I am to pay back in December 2022. However, I tell you, I can only pay in 4 installments in 2024, 2027, 2029, and 2037. Will your 1,000 cedis be the same in value by 2037? That's the question. What's your reflection on this? Hello, Suleimana.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
It's basically the steps that have been taken to demonstrate that, look, we are in a collapsed economy. And it is the man who has successfully collapsed the economy who is telling you the steps that he's going to take to help put the economy in a better shape. I really, as a person, personally, I have credibility issues on anything that I hear from Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, because on a number of occasions he said this and it turns out to be that, he's done this and it turns out to be this. And I'm, again, still seriously surprised that he's the same person managing our economy and believing that whatever he tells people, people will believe it. There's nothing more serious than having a finance minister who cannot be trusted. A finance minister with credibility issues in terms of the management of the economy. And this is the same person preaching to us every day. I am not a finance person, but like I said, the problem for me is the credibility issues, the issues of trust, the issues of honesty, and the fact that people have completely lost confidence in Mr. Ofori-Atta as the manager of our economy. And unfortunately, we still have him foisted on us by the president, who appears not to care about anything anymore in this country. And so we can just basically look on as they do what they please. What else can one say? Because we say, look, the finance minister must go. The president says, look, whether you like him or not, he's the one that I'm giving it, I'm keeping. And whether the economy is going to crash or not, he's the one that I have. If you vote for NDC, it's your own problem. and continues to do whatever he wants to do. So that is the kind of leadership, unfortunately, we have in the country at this stage, and we can only end with that. What else would one say?
What's the results best in 8 years? That's according to President Akufo-Addo, and that story on page 16. Let's quickly get there. So the 2022 West African Senior School Certificate Examination results are Ghana's best in the last 8 years, the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has observed. Now, indeed, quoting him, indeed, the free senior high school era has been a systematic improvement over the pre-free SHS era, he said. Now, he shared his observation at the 70th anniversary of the Opoku-Ware SHS in Kumasi last Saturday, stressing that the 2022 WASSCE results of those students, which he preferred to call the Akufo-Addo graduates, were splendid. And he says, quote, "I can state without equivocation that I am proud of the policy and of its results thus far." Performance statistics for the core subjects over the 3 years of the free SHS, as released by the West African Examinations Council, show that in 2020, when the first batch of free SHS beneficiaries sat the WASSCE, 57.34% passed in English, 65.71% passed in core mathematics, while 52.53% and 64.31% passed in integrated science and social studies, respectively. Now, there have been some increments over the years, and that is what Mr. President is alluding to. But there are others who have taken him on and said, wait, how do you disaggregate those who came on board with free SHS versus those who had already been in the system, and so many other dynamics? And does this suffice to give free SHS a pat on the back? I have always said that it's a fantastic policy. It's the implementation that I do not like. What's your take on Mr. President's suggestion here?
Well, I agree with you in terms of the importance of the policy. There's no doubt about that. There are people who wouldn't have been able to go to secondary school, but for the free SHS policy, even though there are people who also express concerns about the fact that it is said to be free and yet parents have to bear this or that. Unfortunately, the implementation of the policy is literally destroying the quality of education in our country. And the president may choose to prioritize quantity, but I think that what is important for our country is quality. We have a situation where the government at some point was so desperate to make sure that kids or our SHS folks get the best of grades so that they could use it for political propaganda. And they went all the way in terms of even using almost 20 or 20-something million Ghana cedis to procure PASCO for our young brothers and sisters, with a view that this is what will help them to pass. We've all been in this country. We've never had an occasion like that, where a government says, in order to help children pass the exams, we are going to use money or state money to buy past questions for them to be able to do that. The other point is that whether we like it or not, whether we believe it or not, the reality is that examination malpractices are at an all-time high. You have schools that have been set up basically to aid people or to aid students to pass. And these are real. There are places that people will tell you, look, all you need to do is to take your child there, pay this amount, and passing is a done deal. Then, if you like, let your team go to the universities across the country and talk to the academics, the faculty people, and they will tell you how low standards are at the university level. You know, lecturers, professors are all complaining and are questioning, how come we are admitting students with really good grades, they get to the university, and their performance is so awful? And that is the reality now. I think it is important that we look at what is happening at our universities in terms of the students who are being admitted with top grades, A1s, straight, you know, aggregate 8, aggregate 9, aggregate 10, and all of that. Then they get to the universities, and it's a crisis in terms of performance. And this is real. So what is happening? Are we interested in getting the numbers of people passing at the SHS level through whatever means when indeed the quality is not there?
Right.
And when people started talking about quality, that is when the government and the other actors decided, okay, the way to resolve this is to make sure that students are passing. It is not about helping students to pass. It is about making sure that students have what it takes to be able to progress academically and have the quality to be able to help in the nation-building agenda. So for me, the president is basically engaging in trivialities, comparing, this result to what happened in the 8 years. Look, then people may want to also look at what happened between 2016 and the results between 2016 and, let's say, 2008.
Right.
And to say, did it improve or it was, a retrogression?
Right.
I don't think that this is necessary for the president to be engaging in this. If the free SHS thing is working, people would know. It is not for him to tell us.
Right. Let's go to page 5. Nigerian gunmen kill 12 Muslim worshippers and abduct others. And quickly there on the international front, gunmen in Nigeria killed 12 worshippers, including an imam, and kidnapped several others from a mosque on Saturday night, local residents said on Sunday, in the latest attack by armed gangs in the northern part of the country. Armed gangs known as bandits attack communities where security is stretched, killing people or kidnapping them for ransom. The gangs also demand villagers to pay protection fees to be allowed to farm and harvest their crops. All of this going on there. But there's also the story about more finance needed for Africa's energy transition. I'll wrap on the back page with some sporting news. And Suleimana, so sticking to his promise, and this is beautiful. Otto Addo said, look, no matter what happened, even if we won the World Cup, he would resign right after that. He would hang his boots as far as the Black Stars job is concerned. And he did exactly that in that final presser. And it's been captured by Sky News and other, major media portals. But now the story is that the GFA is not ready to replace Otto Addo now. And the question is Chris Hughton the heir apparent? Or is it going to be George Boateng, who allegedly is being considered for the job? What do you think? Should we be in any haste to replace Otto Addo?
Well, I think we certainly have to be eager to replace him, because we shouldn't wait till there's another tournament coming up and then we have a quick fix and hope that the coach would be able to put a solid team together. We need to have a substantive coach who would keep doing what has to be done. We don't have to wait to get a coach only when we have a tournament, because a team has to be built. Scouting and all of those things have to be undertaken to identify potential players, occasionally bring them together, ensure that there is team cohesion and players getting to know each other so well. Our problem is always lack of preparation. We always wait last minute, believe that we have talented players who can easily be put together to go and do wonders. So for me, I think it's important that we replace Otto Addo as soon as we can. Of course, Otto Addo had made it clear that he was going to resign, whether we win or not. But I felt quite bad the way in which he, resigned just after that game.
But that was what he said he would do.
Well, I don't know about he's saying that I will resign. If we won the same day, I'm going to resign. If we exit the same day, I'm going to resign.
Right.
That also, as a Ghanaian, he being a Ghanaian, it would have been a bit dignifying to allow some space. Okay, now 3 days on or 4 days on, or when the team has departed, Otto Addo announces his resignation. But to just do it on that same day, as though he was praying that, let this team quit and then let me have my way. I'm eager to go. So I'm happy that they've even been exited or they've been kicked out. It allows me more time to focus on my own thing. I think it could have been done better, the way it was handled for me, particularly as a Ghanaian. A foreign coach doing his own things, well, why not? He owes no allegiance. But this one is a different matter, and I think it could have been done better.
All right. Let's look at the following stories. And so the Daily Guide newspaper, no haircuts on T-bills, domestic bonds, that's according to Ken. I've already taken a look at that. There's also free SHS has paid off, that's according to Nana Addo. Imani Vice Lords AG Atuesian, the 90 million Ghana city settlement, and Ghana South Korea chart new course. So if you look at that story, let me just get to it. I was looking at the one with the South Koreans. So Ghana and South Korea have decided to strengthen the current and existing relations between the two countries for the optimal benefit of their respective citizens. Leaders of the two countries made the commitment when the South Korean Prime Minister Han Duck-soo arrived in Ghana yesterday to begin a 3-day state visit to the country. It's interesting because, you know, we locked horns recently and beat the South Koreans, though in the end they qualified and we didn't at the Mondial. But then 6,907 persons living with HIV in the northern region alone. And then Imani Vice Lords AG Atuesi, a 90 million Ghana cedi settlement. If you followed him on Newsfile over the weekend, he said that, yes, there may be the other outstanding matters, but he lauds the AG for at least pursuing the matter and securing the 90 million Ghana cedis, which now Atuesian is willing to pay. But other people have said, like the judge, you know, corroborated, this sets a bad precedent. If we let him go, he is A1, with, you know, the prime individual involved in this entire endeavor. If he pays the sum of money and then who knows how much profit he has made off of it. I'm not trying to interfere with a court case, and he gets to walk away. What happens to the other accused people in the same way? Are they going to be treated the same, way? Are they going to be afforded the same situation, so that if they were able to cough up some sums of money, they would be allowed to walk? And what does this mean as a precedent that is being set? Because other things have been, done in the past as well. What are your reflections on these stories?
Well, because lawyers have spoken about it, I guess I can touch on it. I also reflected and asked the same questions that. So if the person can pay, or if the person is willing to pay, that saves him a prison term. And what does it mean? So still, if you are caught, you pay. If you are not caught, you benefit. Is that the principle that we want to have? And whether or not that would not make it attractive for people, let me just take the money. And hope that I will not be caught. After all, if I'm caught, all I do is to pay the money back.
Right. So, Suleimana, pardon the interjection, but on Newsfile on Saturday, people shared experiences where others, they had seen people, do this, go to jail 5 years, 10 years, come back and really show off with the money that they stole from the state. You get it? And that is why some people are saying that this is a very slippery slope. So for such people, how firm should we be? You refund the money, you still do time, or what? What is your take?
Exactly. Maybe so if you were going to go in for some 10 years, if you were not going to be able to pay, yes, you'll be willing to pay, but you should still do some 1 or 2 years in prison. So you make a choice whether you want to go 10 years or you would refund and do 1 year or 2 years in prison. But whatever the case, the punishment must be there, because if I can pay the money back without sweat, then really, what is the punishment that I'm suffering for the crime that I committed? And there are people who can do that. I stole the money, used it to do my own business and all of that. Yes, I'm supposed to pay with interest. It's almost like a loan. At the end of the term, I'm supposed to pay with interest. And people go for loans and all of that. And here's the case: another person takes money that belongs to the state and then uses it his own way. Then when he's caught, the punishment is that pay the money back with interest. What is the difference between that person and the one who went for a legitimate loan? So whatever the case may be, there must be some punishment that the person will suffer. And another person will look at it and say, look, even if I can pay, at the end of the day, I'm going to spend some 1 year or 2 years in prison. Is this really what I want to do? And that will be the deterrence. But otherwise, if it is loot, if you are caught, you pay. I think it is going to be a very attractive trap for people to want to engage in.
Let's do Republic Press now. 5 remanded over unlawful possession of police uniforms and weapons. Story on page 4. I'll get to that very quickly. Galamsey menace increasing rate of HIV infections. That's according to Dr. Etiahene's story on page 6. Eastern region, very sad story. Boy 22 beheads stepmother, grandfather over wee toffee at Kuforidia. Mahama Child's World Cup MPs, and of course we've heard the former president chide those members of parliament, especially from the majority side, in fact from the majority side, who should have been in parliament debating the budget and were rather in Qatar, cheering on the Black Stars. Akufo-Addo justifies free SHS budget, and then raging fire in NPP as Kennedy Ejapon runs amok. He has been firing the vice president, Dr. Bawumia, on the economy based on the very things he said. But I just have a quick Republic Press. Amok is spelled A-M-O-K. There's no C in there, not like the word mock. So whoever edits this paper should take note of that. But let's get into this bit on page 4. Take a quick look at the 5 remanded over unlawful possession. So is that story there? Yes, it is. So an Accra Circuit Court has remanded 5 persons into police custody over alleged unlawful possession of police uniforms and weapons. The accused persons, Felix Carl Hago, Francis Tosu, Adego Sagan Simonet, Maxwell Akwesi Amuni, and Ishmael Adanse denied possessing arms and ammunition as well as unlawful possession of police accoutrement. They were ordered by the court presided over by Mr. Samuel Bright Akwa to appear on December the 5th, 2022. The prosecution said on November 24, 2022, the police retrieved information that some occupants of a blue Hyundai Tucson with registration number GX 737214 and a red Hyundai Elantra with registration number GN 512920 were in possession of weapons, sets of military and police uniform. This wouldn't be the first time we're hearing of such incidents, but how much of a danger do they pose when you can't even trust that maybe the person stopping you is actually a police officer or isn't? On page 6, the Galamsey menace can contribute to new HIV infections and further undermine progress towards the elimination agenda. Dr. Treme Etiahene, the Director General of the Ghana AIDS Commission, has said. He said a recent study that assessed the impact of natural resource extraction projects on HIV transmission risk in local communities in 16 sub-Saharan African countries, including Ghana, indicated that mining operations increased the odds of HIV infection almost twofold, and that the strongest effects were seen in the 20 to 29-year-olds. Of course, there's a lot of talk about those who do this work and how they get easy money or quick money, and how usually they want to blow it on certain things, and that also aids in transmitting the virus. Quick reactions, Sule?
I think for Galamsey, anything about it is certainly bad, and that is why we need to tackle it. No more than that. It's just a bad practice and with bad consequences, and we need to tackle that. On the issue of the arrest of folks with police uniforms, I would say that, yes, we are in a very, very depressing situation in our country, but one sector that gives us hope is the police in our country. You see a sense of renewed professionalism, commitment, dedication on the police front. And we should commend Dr. Akufo-Dampare, the IGP, for the reforms that have been introduced. A number of them, including, having new regions, Kasua now a region, and I'm hearing that there are even going to be additional regions, police regions in our country. So all those are steps that are being taken to ensure that rule of law is well protected, and people's security would be something that will be taken quite seriously. And so we look forward to continuous improvement and continuous hope and inspiration that the police service continue to give us under the leadership of Dr. Akufo-Dampare. The last thing I want to comment on is the ministers and MPs who chose to be in Qatar over debating the budget. Again, when I initially saw it, I thought it was a fake report. Until later, when I realized that no, it's actually true, and I was wondering, and I could only conclude by saying, well, maybe we have a president who perhaps has literally lost control over his appointees, and they choose to do what they like. And the president, also says, look, you can choose to vote for whichever party that you want. I don't care. I've done my bit, sort of. And so if ministers decide that instead of being here to debate this critical issue of the budget, what they would want to do is to be in Qatar to entertain themselves, what can we say? But it's a very sad development, and I hope that the president would take some action against those people who decided to act that way. Of course, he himself decided to go and observe or watch the opening match in the sense of solidarity and giving the players motivation.
Right.
And all of that. So it's a situation of people choosing to do what they want rather than the president really controlling affairs and making sure that we get our economy right back on track.
And again, another word that goes askew. I'm not trying to shame Republic Press after a Mac with a C, but local is with 2 C's. And I feel, you see, people reach out to people like us all the time talking about how the media, whether print, broadcasters, spew a lot of things that sometimes shouldn't be. So we should watch some of these things because they're also meant for education. You can't spell local, L-O-C-C-A-L. Anyway, just to wrap on what you said. So a technical advisor of the Office of the Vice President, Dr. Kabiru Mahama, has slammed these NPP members of parliament who went to Qatar. And he says, quote, I am sure that this is something the president will be very appalled at because the members of parliament are expected to sit through the budget debate. But then a deputy health minister, the member of parliament for Wejagbawe, is telling us locally produced foods fight BP and others. And at the same time, Agric Minister, Dr. Owusu Efriakoto, says the agric sector grew at 8.4%, which is the highest since 1992. But do we have what it takes to show that these improvements are actually aiding us? Do you have any quick reflections on one or two of those so we can move on quickly? We have just about a minute.
Well, it is the growth of the agric sector that has perhaps led to the opening up of the food market at the ministry for people to patronize food at relatively cheaper costs when indeed it turns out not to be the case. We all know that one of the sectors that has had a very catastrophic failure has been the agric sector. Look, talk to anybody and they will tell you the future doesn't really look bright in terms of availability of food and food prices. And yet the minister goes about throwing up figures, sometimes false figures. And when you expose those false information, then he turns around to say that he doesn't even trust his own researchers at the ministry. So again, it's one of the sad situations we have in our country. People just putting out information out there when the reality is completely a different story. Ghana should be doing well in the agric sector instead of importing all these kinds of things from Burkina, Niger, these landlocked desert countries.
Right.
But we have people who choose to do propaganda than do the work.
Well, this is how we'll have to wrap it up. I'm looking at the Finder newspaper. Interesting because the Finder newspaper, the Ghanaian publisher, the New Crusading Guide, the Custodian, all reporting the very same stories we've already seen. Maybe the only different one would be the Ghanaian publisher saying Oforiatta unveils debt restructuring today. That is how they capture it. Any final words before we call it a conversation?
Well, I should just say that, yes, we are in a very depressing situation, but we should just be hopeful. Let's do individually what we can do to improve our country. And that includes speaking up. That includes, making sure that the folks that are being paid with our tax money are held accountable at all times. That is something that we are also losing. Increasingly, people are either afraid or unwilling to speak up against the misgovernance that is going on. But if we continue to do that, we would only have more misgovernance. The way to tackle it is not to be quiet. The way to tackle it is to speak up. So I encourage people to speak up. Don't be scared about being branded. You are NDC, you are MPP. Those are not criminal groups. So if you are said to be MPP or NDC, what's the big deal? Just speak up. That is what I would encourage people to do. That's the only way to build our democracy. Democracy will not thrive in silence. It only thrives when people speak up. So have a good week.
I wish you the same. Thank you so much. And thank you once more for joining the conversation this Monday morning. Suleimana Brahima, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, joining us. And especially grateful to those of you who took the time on social media to tune in and watch us via our live stream. But up next, we're talking sports. Yes, the Black Stars are coming back home, in fact. But where do we go from here? Do we need a new coach? What are the other things we can pick from the Black Stars so far? More of that coming your way in Sports Tuesday.
Good morning and welcome to AM Sports with me, Abigail Sanasisu. So the World Cup continues despite the fact that the Black Stars crashed out, unfortunately, and were not able to progress to the round of 16. Just when we were trying to massage those Spain and Eagles, the head coach of the side, Coach Otoado, threw in his resignation and is no longer going to be a part of the team, reiterating the fact that he has a contract with Dortmund that is still running.
Before I started to work for the GFA, everybody knew, and I said it before, I have a contract with Dortmund, and I have to respect that. And even to come here was very difficult, and the GFA put a lot of effort to release me. And at the end, they came by themselves to Dortmund to speak to the board. And at the end, they decided to release me for this task. What you have to know is the position I have as a talent coach is very, very crucial in Dortmund. We produce every year a lot of big talents, and it's a very crucial and important position for the club. So normally they wouldn't want to let me go in, but because I wanted to help the country, and the GFA went there and had very, very good talks, they released me for 6 months. So it was, and I said it when I started, that I have a contract I could just sign for 6 months. This was the agreement between the GFA and Borussia Dortmund. It was not possible to do it longer. And they told me they wouldn't like me to go. But I talked to them that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. So they let me go, and we agreed on a 6 months term. So it will end now. And it hasn't got anything to do with the outcome or result. It would have, and also if we would have been world champions. I have to respect my contract. I have to respect the club I'm working for, and surely, maybe one day I will get a chance to work again with the GFA. But the next 2.5 years, I have a contract with Dortmund. I have to respect it.
So we get to see who gets to man the Black Stars going forward in days ahead. But a former central defender for Ghana, once played for Asante Kotoko and Bayern Munich, has said that we should not put pressure on the players after this defeat, but instead we should see how best we can prepare them for subsequent tournaments. I'm talking about Sami Osekofa, who says that we need to be patient as Ghanaians with our players.
Please, we shouldn't even point fingers on each and every player or whoever did something wrong here. I will still insist we should find a solution to our problems than to point fingers. It will not help. We all know that we want to go far. Look at how many people are here, how many business that goes on in Ghana, and somebody's maybe in 1 city or 2 cities. It's good for all of us when Ghana goes high. So I will still plead we should just take it easy with these young players that we call them. I can take the pressure. It's not everybody that can take the pressure. When I was playing, I hear everything in Germany, wherever critics here and there, I don't care. But know everybody who has that heart. These are the young ones. So please, let's just hold them into the highest esteem. It's not like we have to praise them, but we should them for what they have achieved. This young team, Germany, coach said something. They are now trying to go on the street to find the talent and giving them football to juggle to do whatever they want to do. but we have it natural. So please, we shouldn't point fingers, like I said, but we should try and find a solution. How can we get better from here? It started all with all of us. So please, I'm pleading, and I'm just saying it again. We shouldn't point fingers on each and every player, but we should just encourage them to do better for our motherland.
Back to the tournament where the round of 16 continued yesterday, where we saw the 3 Lions of England get the most out of the Lions from Teranga. I'm talking about England and Senegal. They put 3 past the African champions, and they've been eliminated from that level of the competition. We take some highlights and we are back for some more stories.
It's not the usual singing and dancing we have seen from the Senegalese fans after their games, especially when they have won. Today and tonight, it's all about the English fans who are jubilating because at the end of the round 16 game, England beat Senegal by 3-0 and have knocked Senegal out of the competition. That makes it 4 African teams out of the World Cup as we speak. Ghana, Cameroon, Tunisia, and now Senegal have been knocked out. It was a game in which Senegal had a few opportunities up front, but they were not quite able to meet the level of England. England looked head and shoulders above Senegal in terms of their technical ability. Wonderful play by Jude Bellingham, playing in Jordan Henderson, who scored the first goal for them. It was another beautiful counter-attack that really saw Harry Kane at the end of it, and Bukayo Saka scored the final goal for England to ensure they completed demolition. Well, Africa will look up to Morocco to try and save the situation. They play against Spain in their round of 16 game. Here at the Al-Bayt Stadium, though, it's all about the English fans who have started singing again, "It's Coming Home." We're here to ensure we bring you every bit of the updates and every bit of the euphoria here. At the moment, there you go. A lot of jubilation because the 3 Lions are back in with another wonderful win. George Adijuna reporting from the Al-Bayt Stadium right here as Senegal got knocked out of the competition. Oh yeah, 3 Lions. How are you feeling? How are you feeling?
Fantastic, great result, wasn't it?
It's great,
yeah,
brilliant.
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
All right,
bring on the French.
Yeah.
Yes. Was it too easy? Was it too easy?
I thought Senegal gave us a good game.
It was
reasonably solid team.
Yeah, really good. I mean, up until towards the end of the first half, I think Senegal had every chance to score.
Yeah, it's hard to break down, especially that first half, that's for sure.
You've got France to play. How confident are you?
50-50.
2-1 to England.
2-1 to England.
Fingers crossed.
All right, yes. Yes, come this way, stand this way. Is it coming home?
Absolutely, it's coming home.
Already, it's coming home?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How difficult was the game?
Nothing, absolutely nothing. We overplayed them all the way.
So it's very, very easy for you, right?
Absolutely,
all right,
absolutely.
Thank you very much.
You sit down.
How exciting was the game for you tonight?
Absolutely cracking. Sorry, we miss you, Mane. We love you, Mane. But 3-0 to England today. Yes. Yeah. So we move on to the quarters.
Is it coming home then?
It's coming home. It's coming home. Football's coming home. Thank you.
Hello. Tell me, how exciting was the game?
Oh, fantastic. We're going to win. We're going to win.
You don't know when? All right.
It's coming home.
It's coming home.
France, let's go.
Are you sure you can beat France, though?
Of course. All they've got is Mbappe. 2-foot. Bye-bye. Let's go. Come
on.
on.
Congratulations.
Sorry?
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's right. Take care of yourself.
Enjoy, my friend.
All right. Hello, how excited are you?
Oh, fantastic!
Is it coming home?
Great win.
Football's coming home. It's coming home.
France next. France next.
Are you beating France?
Oh, yeah.
And so that was how the Netherlands, the French, and Argentina got to qualify to the last 8 of the ongoing tournament together with the English team. And so we get to continue the round of 16 today, where Japan take on Croatia later this afternoon at 3 p.m. at the Al Janoub Stadium. And at the Stadium 974, it's going to be Brazil against South Korea. That'll be later at 7 p.m. Remember, these games will be live on Joy 99.7 with that commentary, and also on Joy Prime, I will bring you that game between Brazil and South Korea. That'll be all for sports now. My name is Abigail Sanasusi. Thank you for watching.
Welcome back on the AM show. We get into our big stories, and of course, definitely we're going to hear what the finance minister has to say today. But before that, we're going to be considering what Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tua-Yeboah has been saying in respect of the office of the Attorney General, which has not been compromised, according to him, in the ongoing trial of the founder of the defunct Capital Bank, William Atuesian. Now, presiding judge in the trial, Justice Eric Chebafo, had rejected the terms of settlement reached between state prosecutors and Atuesian on the basis that the law that the state of the accused based their agreed settlement on did not apply to the instant case, and that such settlements made crimes or could make crimes attractive. But the AG's office is disputing that. Now, we asked this morning, could the AG have secured a better deal in the Atuesian trial? And are there consequences for the accused who come to court under plea bargaining if convicted? Now, to help us dilate on those issues, we're joined by lawyer Kweku Pencil, who will give us a picture, a snapshot of where exactly this could go. Lawyer Pencil, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation. Hello, Kweku Pencil. If you can hear me, please unmute.
Hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you. So even before we get into some specifics, when it comes to this particular instance, there are some precedents about how we've dealt with cases in the past, the Woyome issue and all of that. What do you see in this substantive case, this current one? What is your viewing from the legal angle?
Yeah, the judge, I think there's one point in which I agree with him. Can you say? Hello?
Yes, I can listen. I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Even there's at least one point on which I agree with the judge, and besides, I have issues with everything else. I think the first point which I agree with him is this observation that Section 35 of the Fourth Act, and he makes it quite clear that where the commission of an offense has caused economic loss, harm, or damage to the state or agent, then the accused may inform the prosecutor whether the accused admits the offense and is willing to make compensation to the state. So to that extent, and having regard to the fact that on the fact of this case, the offense for which the accused persons have been charged does not relate to loss of anything to the state, loss, harm, or damage to the state. That, for me, defines the issue. In other words, that this clause or this article does not apply to the matter before the court. And having made that observation, the matter ends there. All the other pronouncements that he made, in my view, are out of his competence, out of his jurisdiction. They are not properly within consideration. And there are pronouncements that, in my view, are less the matter that is before him.
Which are the examples you're pointing to? Which of his pronouncements specifically are you saying were out of his jurisdiction?
That the judge said that the state affairs are compromised, like that kind of settlement makes the commission of crime attractive. I mean, they are not fair comments at all. And I can proceed to explain. In the very first place, if you do not have power to consider that provision, like I said, that's of the matter. But then, the whole idea that the state has been compromised, that crime is being made attractive, is unfortunate. Crime is not being made attractive. And let me explain it this way. The evidence that the church said is premised on an assumption that the people or the accused persons have been found guilty by his court, which is not true. He has not delivered his test. And please, let's make this quite clearly. When the settlement matter before the court and the person decides to this compromise, it is only after the compromise has been made and has been admitted by the court that the presumption of guilt can assume on the part of the accused person. Any time before that, they have not delivered judgment. The person is doing what he's doing on the basis of an anxiety and apprehension that he may be found guilty. But until the court has made the pronouncement, that person is not guilty. And that's why I find it very unfortunate, because the judge has got his judgment. The assumption that nobody knows how the court has treated the matter. But by making that pronouncement, we all now know that the accused person has been found guilty by him. That is a logical conclusion that anybody can make from the statement that he has made. That can be made a crime. That's point number one. Point number two, with due respect, the Attorney General is a point of justice. The person. And
Mr. Painto, so your connection is not so good right now. Maybe if you could reposition yourself so we could hear you better. We're struggling to hear you.
The real problem is that I am on the road. I can stop for a few minutes and then we can continue. If you can hear me.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, I'm parking.
Yes. I think you should do that so we can have a conversation for a few minutes and then that will be better.
Right? So now, that's my first point. Can you hear me quite clearly?
I can hear you, sir.
Is that right? The second point is that with respect to the Attorney General, it is the point of justice with this country. The assumption is that whatever he does, he does it the best interest of the country, having regard to all the circumstances of the case. Now, I want people to understand that the settlement arrangement, it's not as simple as that. We are involved in the situation on behalf of private people. And when it comes to settlement, the whole case is more about value so-called that you get a market at any particular point in time. But you take into consideration all kinds of factors, including the purchase value given at the time of the transaction. Because what is the worth of $100 million for instance? If it can spend 10 years to get it at the end of the trial, the execution process is so and so on. So at any point, when people come together, a judgment, a debtor, and a creditor come together to reach a compromise. The fact that goes is, of course, recognized. I'm assurance, for instance, a few banks, and I can give you this assurance that the bank is not how they look at it. If somebody owes $10 million and they can get $3 million to a settlement, that's a banker has 4 months and they are willing and all time are willing to make those compromises. And I cannot understand why the Attorney General having required facts that are not available to us if it decides that in the circumstances of a particular case, I mean, the 9 million for instance was best value that you could get. I mean, don't forget that the Attorney General has got the power of solo crucify. And all the other decide not to pursue the case at all. And by law, the Attorney General is not obliged to give a reason to everybody. So if the same person who can continue a case without explanation, either to the court or to the public or to everybody, decides to go and settle a matter for 90 million, as you say, come on, it is very possible that it is worth more. I mean, the whole idea that the judge pronounced that the value in law, that consideration is not be adequate. As a matter of law, in order to reach an agreement, it's not about so much value, even though it's part of the drive to reach the agreement. So I also consider that pronouncement by the judge as a first. Indeed, in my view, if the judge was minded to express all those views, it was better if they had done so in camera, so that if they had everything see that this was not be the problem. But then if they directed the person to camera, we should not make this for public consumption. In any case, like I have said, either you have the capacity, not capacity, you have the jurisdiction there, or you don't have the jurisdiction. So, I mean, I better more. I can run and run, but I don't want to take all your time. If I've got any specific question, I'll be willing to answer that.
So it's been a bit shaky, but I just want your quick reaction to this. So does it or does it not make crime attractive if we go down this road? Now, it is a good thing. Kofi Bento and others have suggested that it is a good thing. We've heard from Deputy Attorney General Alfred Tuah come and say that, look, if we secure the sums of money, that is good for the state. The lawyer, the judge himself in question has said, the money, quoting him, the money William Atuesian and the two other accused persons are alleged to have stolen does not belong to the state, and that, quote, it belongs to the bank and depositors of the bank. So by allowing him to make reimbursement, whether with interest or otherwise, like this, without any, and as some have suggested, I am not suggesting it, without any punitive measures by way of jail time or something, does it or does it not make crime attractive? What's your quick answer to that?
You know, I think that statement by the judge was just a red herring in the sense that it does not fit some part of the Constitution at all. Please not forget that individual commissioners, the victims of the crime are individuals. Nonetheless, it's the state that does the prosecution. And when the state does the prosecution and the court ends up with orders, punitive or otherwise, that money is not intended to benefit the victims of the crime. That's the law. If the victims of the crime intend that they will be put in their positions, status quo ante, that is to say, the positions they were before they were robbed or whatever, what they require to do as a matter of law is to institute several acts against the one who perpetrated the conduct against them. That's the only way by law by which they can be put in their real position. Whatever the state as part of criminal act goes to the state office, of course, for all manner of. But in addition to that, please know that the court in a proper case where a person, the commission of the crime has deprived the state of a loss or some funds and so on, the court has power, addition to a custodial sentence, to make an order directed to this time, let's say, to go in a criminal, and we have to say if it's convicted. Then the court has power in addition to criminal sanctions, that is by way of the jail cell, to make an order for the person to reparate and reparate. The word is not reparation. I mean, to pay the state to fund the losses that the state has suffered and enhanced. The court has got that power, and with the circumstances, the court can make an order for the seizure of property and so forth and so on. But that is where the 35 of the Court Act properly applied.
Okay.
That the one who committed the crime has caused a loss, economic loss to the state, not the individual. So, I mean, whichever way, this business of making crime attractive by way of punishing people and so forth and so on, there are theories of punishment. And I don't necessarily and honestly believe that a particular form of sentence makes any crime attractive more than another.
Okay. Mr. Painter, we're grateful for your time. We're grateful that we would allow you to continue with your journey, and we're grateful that you took the time to join us. Kweku Painter is a lawyer. We're also joined on the phone lines by Inusuf Hussaini, former member of parliament, also a former minister for lands and natural resources, and a lawyer. That is what we're focusing on today. He's going to share with us his thoughts on the matter from the legal angle. Mr. Hussaini, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well. How about you, sir?
You can't complain. I'm fine.
Great. You just heard your colleague, Kweku Painter, say that for him, it is neither here nor there. He doesn't agree with the justice of the court who said that this could make crime attractive. I'm talking about the Atuesian issue. Does it or does it not make crime attractive? In the end, the AG's office, if you followed News File over the weekend, they have been able to push and keep pushing from some 27 million, 50 plus million, now to 90 million, which is what Atuesian, that is the latest payment that he's agreed to make which would conclude the matter. The Justice of the Court, Eric Chebafor, says the money William Atu-Essien and the two other accused persons are alleged to have stolen does not belong to the state. It rather belongs to the bank and depositors of the bank. Do you agree with him on that, the Justice of the Court? And do you feel that if there are no punitive measures in terms of incarcerating Atu-Essien, so to speak, then just merely because of that, it waters down the entire process of retrieving these sums of money from him?
Oh, thank you so very much. I think that first of all, we need to unpack the issues. And the first is that this is a financial crime. It's a crime against the financial system. The financial system is made up of the monies of depositors and monies of government. That is where government deposits its money in a commercial bank. And so there's a fiduciary relationship between the directors of the bank and depositors. Now, when a financial crime of this nature is committed, it is the depositors who suffer, who lose their money, who might get haircuts in the payment of their deposits. And the legal system itself can be slow and frustrating. And so where the person who has been found culpable for or who has admitted liability and is willing to make some payment, it is important to understand that that payment will shorten the process. Mind you, the legal process itself is funded by our money, the taxpayers' money, the depositors' money, the money that the people of Ghana pay towards the running of the judicial system. And so if the person is found culpable and then it decides to make a restitution, it is important that the legal system acknowledges that and takes that money. That does not obviate from the responsibility, the duty of the legal system to punish that person for that crime. It only mitigates the level of sentence that person will take. That is why the government and the country as a whole has been thinking of introducing the plea bargain. I don't know whether it has not been introduced. That look, where the legal system is failed, because of the way the process is the adversarial system, because of the way it is being conducted in this country and in all Commonwealth countries, where the common law is the preferred choice of the legal system, the process can be slow. And a slow process means a costly process. And so if a person is found culpable for a crime of this nature and is willing to make some restitution, the court must acknowledge that restitution, but that does not mean that the court cannot punish that person.
Are you then saying that you side with Justice Bafor on the fact that, I want to get you clearly, does this give room for people to want to engage in same, because the consequences could be that in this instance, you pay back, whether with interest or otherwise, and you go scot-free, so to speak. But quickly to add to that, listening to Alfred Tuayeboa, he also made mention of the fact that maybe some people are losing sight of the fact that if he is convicted on these charges, it's not merely about going to jail. In terms of being on any board of any institution or continuing in his practice, there are damages to him as a person, which would mean that he cannot even hold certain office. He cannot engage in some activities in the financial sphere. Is that not punitive enough on Atu-Essien?
First of all, that is what the law says. The new Company Act says that a director of a bank or any financial institution convicted of a crime of dishonesty cannot hold any position or directorship for a period of about 10 years. So it's there. I mean, that is the law. And so in addition to going to jail, he's not going to be able, if he's convicted, if he is convicted and left to go free and said, look, because of the restitution that you have made, we are going to waive, we're not going to give you a jail term. Okay, we will caution and discharge you. But that is a conviction, and you cannot hold any position in the financial system for a period stipulated in the law. But what I'm saying is that the judge himself has the power to acknowledge the recovery of the money and also jailed Atu-Asian. It's not mutually exclusive. The plea bargain doesn't mean that you walk away free. I mean, the fact that Atu-Asian has admitted to paying some money to the banks in form of recovery of money that was misappropriated by him is an admission of guilt. And that is different. I mean, even if the court had gone through trial and established that this is the amount that is involved, the court could order restitution. So it's not mutually exclusive. I don't want us to look at it as if pay and go free. No, it's not so. If immediately you pay the money, it's an admission of guilt, and the court can find you guilty on that.
But even in terms of paying the money, there are payments that have been made in the past, yes, but he has always refuted that sort of acceptance of guilt up until now, maybe wanting to make the full payment. And I do not know. Well, with the guidance of his counsel, but
if you say you are not guilty, why do you make payment? If you say you are not guilty, are you doing it for a Christmas thing?
But is that necessarily an admission of guilt? Hold on. Look at the LaBianca issue, for example. You remember when over 1 million Ghana cedis was paid, but they said they just wanted to do that in certain interests, not necessarily an admission of guilt. Is it not similar?
Was found to have evaded the payment of tax, and so was charged for the recovery of that money.
Right.
That is an admission of the fact that in a point in time in its transactions, it violated the payment of certain obligations that were due. That's an admission. I mean, if you are not culpable, why do you pay?
So in this instance as well, by merely offering to make this payment, it's an admission of guilt.
It's an admission of culpability, it's an admission of liability, it's an admission of wrongdoing.
So tell me, what then happens to the second and the third accused? If the question has been asked that if leeway is given William Atu-Asian in this way, then it should be extended to the second and the third accused. And once more, we're not trying to think for the court. We're just discussing the issues that have already been put out there. What is your take on that?
Well, we have come from a long list of cases where persons have been convicted for financial impropriety, but the state has not been able to recover the money. Not so.
That is true.
It becomes easier for the state to recover the money and also punish the culprit. Why are we running away from it? The system should be such that if a person is willing to admit that certain wrongdoing was done and is prepared to make restitution, we acknowledge that a mover, and deal with him with in accordance with the consequences or the stipulations of the law. Now, there is no vicarious responsibility for the commission of a crime. Atu-Austin and the two others are standing as individuals in this matter. And even though Atu-Austin has agreed to make some payments, restitution, it doesn't mean that those two persons will be exonerated. They have to prove, they have to establish their innocence. The prosecution will have to prove their guilt. And so you might not benefit financially from a wrongdoing, but you will be complicit in that, and that is a crime. If there is an abetment of that crime, if there is conspiracy in that crime, if you facilitated the commission of that crime, you're guilty. It doesn't mean that you benefited, but you're guilty.
Okay.
And so the people will have to stand trial for just like Atu-Austin. The fact that he is making that payment doesn't mean that the court cannot find him guilty.
All right. Just hold for me, Yunusa Hussaini. Let me also bring in Alfred Tuah-Yeboah, the Honorable Deputy Attorney General. Mr. Tuah-Yeboah, thank you for joining us this morning on the AM show. Hello, sir. Do we have Alfred Tuah-Yeboah?
Yes, I'm on the line.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
I'm sure you followed the discourse and Inusaf Husseini's rhetoric on the fact that they are not mutually exclusive. You can still, go ahead in the Atuesian situation, recoup what belongs to the state, or at least as the justice of the court says, Justice Zubafo says, the money does not actually technically belong to the state. It belongs to the bank and depositors of the bank, and still enforce some punitive measures. Is that a stance you concur with, for starters, sir?
All right, my brother. Let me ask my greetings to Leonard Senior, Innocent. The fact is, if you take Section 35, is what we are using. It does not talk about imprisonment of an accused person who has agreed to plead guilty to a charge and as well offer restitution and reparation to the state. Section 35 is to the effect that if you agree to plead guilty and offer compensation or restitution and reparation, then in lieu of these things, you are paid a custodial sentence. That's so clear.
Okay, so you're reading, you're quoting subsection 5, and if I may read it, it says, where the court considers the offer to be satisfactory, the court shall accept a plea of guilty from the accused and convict the accused on his own plea, and in lieu of passing sentence on the accused, make an order for the accused to pay compensation and or make restitution and reparation. That's what you're quoting.
Exactly.
Right. So technically, if you're standing by Section 35, then it means there is nothing to do with jail time. It means that once an agreement is arrived at, the person makes restitution to the state, after which the person, though upon conviction, is allowed to, go back to normal life, so to speak.
That is exactly the point. Mr. Inusaf Husseini's point would have been valid if you were to canvass the point that the court should go ahead and hear the matter, and if the accused person is found guilty by the court, here the accused has not pleaded guilty, is found guilty by the court, then the court may convict, sentence him to imprisonment, and in addition, order him to refund the money. That would be a valid point. But going by Section 35, as already indicated, that one is not applicable. That's the essence of Section 35, is to make sure that people don't understand the fact that they've committed offenses, can also make some offers to the state, so that they can also recover some money from such activities.
Let me ask you then, what is your reaction then when the justice of the court argues that the money does not belong to the state or an agency of the state, and therefore, no loss or harm has been caused the state? And then he quotes and says that, in his candid opinion, Section 35 is not applicable to the case for the first accused person, that is William Atuesian, to enter into a settlement with the prosecution. If it is not the state that is, affected by the situation, of course, there could be consequences. And as he's saying, it is the bank and its depositors. How then do you react to the judge's, conclusion?
I'm unable to agree with the judge on that point. If you look at the facts, Capital Bank, as we know, was a public-owned company. Capital Bank was given a liquidity support from the Bank of Ghana, totaling 620 million. It was out of that amount that we currently have these issues in court. That's the first point. Secondly, we are all aware that Capital Bank has been taken over by the regulator and now is part of the Ghana Commercial Bank. The shares of Ghana Commercial Bank do not belong to the shareholders again as we have it now, but the shares are, technically speaking, the shares of the Ghana of Ghana. So whatever way you look at it, the money we're talking about is the money belonging to the people of Ghana, but not the shareholders of Capital Bank. If that were the case, let's go and look at Capital Bank. Who are the shareholders, or who were the shareholders at the time that it fizzled out? It's possible that we maybe be 100% shareholder. I'm just speaking aloud. So would that mean that the money we are talking about belongs to Haitian, and for that matter cannot steal its own money? As you speak now, I'm so clear that Capital Bank is no longer in existence. Capital Bank is now part of Ghana Commercial Bank. Ghana Commercial Bank is owned by the people of Ghana and other shareholders, and for that matter, that amount of money belongs to the state. In any event, the 620 that the government through Bank of Ghana gave to them, this 192, you will prosecute them for false part of that amount.
There's also the bit about the first accused being willing to cough up some 90 million Ghana cedis within a period of a year. The danger that some people have highlighted is like in the Woyome case, where, I mean, you're still struggling to deal with that issue, and among other cases. How sure can we be then that we can recoup this money, good as it seems right now?
All right. Let me draw this distinction. In a civil suit, where you sue someone for recovery of money, if the person defaults, then you have to go and maybe get his property and go through the legal process to auction. But it's a criminal matter. If he fails to go by the agreement, the 35 is so clear. We just go back to the court, and the court then impose a prison term on him. We impose a prison term on him. This to avoid this term of imprisonment that he has decided to go by, this without prejudice to whatever the judge may want to say, is to go by this process. But the 35, if you agree with the state, you make some payment. In the course of it, you refuse to pay, the entire amount becomes payable. If you do not pay, then we go back to the court to impose the prison term on you. That will be worse for you. Because as we speak now, the gentleman has paid 30 million Ghana cedis to the state. If moving forward, he decides not to pay the remaining 60, we'll go back to the court, and the court has to take it to prison. He'll be in prison. That's aside, notwithstanding the fact that he's paid the 30 million Ghana cedis to us. That money still belongs to the state.
So tell me, if within the period of a year that his lawyers have sought, if, let's say, even one peswa or 100,000 cedis or 1 million cedis, by any stretch of, sums of money, have not been fully paid, these processes can still be triggered, right?
Exactly. In fact, per what we have now, the first quarter of 2023, you must pay 20 million Ghana cedis. Second quarter, 20 million. Third quarter, 20. If in the first quarter, he pays 19.9 million Ghana cedis, remain that amount, he does not pay the remaining amount, we will go back to the court for court to put the prison term on him.
Okay. Just let me ask you this before I bring in Inusaf Hussaini again. So what then happens to the second and the third accused? Are they going to be treated the same way if they agree to, based on the different levels of infractions that they have, have been brought against them? Does that mean they would also have opportunity to enjoy same benefits, that is, come up to the state and for whatever liability make the approved or agreed payments? Or is it that they will be treated differently? Some people speaking on the matter have said then that would be some form of, quote, discrimination. What's your answer to that?
Yes. The second and third, especially the second accused person, initially, when the first accused person started to take advantage of Section 35, he was so joined. We discussed with him. Then at a point in time, he said, no, he was not ready to go by that arrangement, that was ready to face the judgment with the court. So the second accused person has been offered that opportunity, and he thinks that you still want to face the judgment of the court. Mind you, the second accused person is also facing a charge of stealing of amount of money. So if he were to agree with the state that those amount that he's been charged with, or whatever proposal that he will make, he should refund, the state will not say because it's not at risk and will leave him out. The third accused person is facing a charge of abetment of crime. He has never been part of any agreement. He has never made an offer. He thinks that he has a case to go and then fight in court and then face the judgment of the court. So the state is not closing the doors on second and third accused person, but it's up to them to make an offer to the state, and we'll consider the offer.
So those offers would be on, admission of guilt, basically.
Technically, that is it. They also just go like at Western, maybe he may say, admit X amount, I'm prepared to plead guilty. The state will look at amount. If it's something that the state thinks reasonable, the state will accept it, and they will go into the term.
Mr. Chiayabwa, just hold for me briefly, because I'm sure Inusaf Hussaini thinks differently on some of these matters, and he may say things that you may want to react to and clarify. So just hold for me. Mr. Hussaini, for you, from your end, are you satisfied with the responses that have been given in terms of any punitive measures per Section 35 and the thinking of the Justice of the Court versus what the Attorney General's Department thinks?
Well, I've listened to the distinguished Deputy Attorney General, and I will want you to read Section 35 again. Read Section 35 again.
Which portion of it?
The plea bargain. In lieu of. I want the operative word there.
All right. So where the court, and this is, where the court, subsection 5, where the court considers the offer to be satisfactory, the court shall accept a plea of guilty from the accused and convict the accused on his own plea, and in lieu of passing sentence on the accused, make an order for the accused to pay compensation or make restitution and reparation.
So what the section is saying, in my understanding of the section, because you cannot legislate to remove the discretion of a court. That will be an interference in the administration of justice. You cannot. What is missing there is may in lieu, and so you have to read it in to be able to establish the independence of the judiciary. If you legislate to remove the discretion of a court in administering justice, then you are passing a judicial legislation.
Well, just hold for me. So it says and in lieu, not may. But let me just add, maybe you're alluding to the 6th subsection, which provides that, quote, an order of the court under subsection 5 shall be subject to such conditions as the court may direct. Is that what you're alluding to?
No, they are alluding to section 35.5.
Yes, it's the sixth subsection I just read. 35.6 is what I just read out to you.
Read. Now, what I'm saying is that when you read section 35 and take it on its plain words, you will come to the conclusion that the distinguished Deputy Attorney General is having. But I have a different view, in the sense that you cannot legislate to remove the discretion of a court, because the court is independent.
Right.
And so that section cannot be read to remove a discretion of the court to impose sentence. The court may, in lieu of in lieu of jail, let the person go, or impose a non-custodial sentence. But that doesn't mean that the discretion of the court to impose a custodial sentence is removed by section 35.5.
Does it not suffice, like Alfred Tuah tells us, that they wish to get into this sort of agreement per the ruling of the court, awaiting the ruling of the court. And then, look, if he's not able to meet any of his commitments, first quarter of 2023, 20 million. If he's not able to meet it, there are going to be the punitive measures triggered per our criminal law. Is that not only fair?
So you see, that is why I have come to that conclusion. So the discretion of the court to always jail a person, if in the face of such a legislation, cannot be taken away. Cannot be taken away. So for me, I want them to look at it from the point of view of the fact that court, if it decides that, look, I'm going to accept it, but I'm going to mitigate the sentence I'm going to impose on Jay or to Austin by the recognition of the fact that some payment has been made, that some money has been recovered, and that will go to mitigate his sentence. I have no problem with that. But to say that, well, let that person pay and we'll find him guilty and he walks away, and the consequences of the company's code will then kick in, is to move towards the position that the judge has, that probably will be making crime too attractive.
All right. So just to conclude the conversation, this matter is sub judice. We don't want to think for the court. But what then do you think is the way forward? Before I wrap with Alfred Tuah, maybe hold for me, Mr. Fuseni. Mr. Tuah, do you have any quick reactions or responses to him before we conclude?
Yes, I wanted to say that if you look at Section 35, what the Parliament of Ghana sought to do is to temporarily suspend the power of the judge to impose custodial sentence on an accused person who has taking advantage of Section 35. However, it's not a permanent ouster of the power of the judge. The power of the judge will be reactivated when the accused person fails to comply with the agreement. That's how I see it. Now, if you even go further, you realize that the judge must be satisfied first before he even accepts the plea of the accused person and therefore his offer of reparation and compensation. So before the judge even gets to where he even wants to pass sentence, he's not satisfied. And that's the reason why he will not pass sentence on the accused person. Hold his time for some time and see whether the accused person will go by the terms of the agreement. However, if the plea bargaining act were to be the act that was invoked, perhaps Leonard Kant's position will have been sway, because under the plea bargaining act, the judge may, the state may agree with an accused person to say that maybe instead of going for 10 years, because of ABCD, we agree that you go for a lesser term. But we are not going by the plea bargaining because that is not what the accused person sought to take advantage of, but rather Section 35.
It is clear then that that sort of agreement or understanding as far as the justice of the court, Justice Bafwa, is concerned, was not arrived at. I mean, from what we've heard.
I didn't get that portion well, if you can repeat.
So you spoke about the justice of the court, having some agreement on this matter. And I'm saying that based on what we've heard from the justice of the court, it would appear that that understanding is not there.
Yes, I will not say so exactly, but since I'm counseling the case, technically, I will not be speaking to the media on issues like that because of how issues are. We think the judge made the ruling, and we're supposed to go back to the court on the 13th. We'll go back and we'll see how best the judge may either reconsider his ruling or we go by whatever the judge thinks should be the case.
Okay, so final words. The way forward for you then, is that what you've just spelled out?
The way forward is we'll go into court on the 13th. We will be at the discretion of the judge. Whatever the judge's wisdom thinks should be the position. We will abide by it for the matter to either proceed or end.
You say to either proceed or end. Where proceeding would mean what, and where ending would mean what?
Proceeding would mean the judge will say he has rejected it. He wants to go ahead and deliver his judgment. Or ending in the sense that you want to end the matter based on the agreement of the parties. Right.
Mr. Tuah-Yeboah, we're immensely grateful. You've given us a lot of understanding, thrown a lot of light on this issue. We're grateful that you took the time to join us, sir.
Thank you very much, my brother.
And that is Alfred Tuah-Yeboah, a Deputy Attorney General. Final words for you, Inosaf Hussaini.
Well, so you see, the satisfied in Section 35(5).
Right.
Is intended to check the negotiations towards plea bargain, so that you don't have collusion between the victim, the Attorney General's office, and the accused person. And so the court is satisfied here is not subjective. You have to adduce evidence to show that really the amount that you are claiming from the accused person is right and proper.
Just hold for me. So it's a very interesting word you use there. So to avoid or avert the fact that there would be no collusion between the Attorney General's office and the accused. In this instance, I don't know whether we're not treading on very slippery territory. Are you suggesting that could actually happen? Collusion? Is that what you see here?
What I'm saying is that I'm just trying to say that it's also a check. That word there is to check whatever happens. So the fact that you agree that the person should pay 90 million might not satisfy the court in view of the amount of money involved.
Right.
Okay? And if the court is not satisfied, the court can go ahead. But it is important to understand that you don't legislate to remove the discretion of a court. I mean, hardly do you legislate to remove the discretion of a court.
Well, this is a pretty interesting development. We'll leave the courts to determine what the way forward would be on this matter. Mr. Yunus Hussaini, we're grateful that you took the time to throw more light on the issue, share your thoughts with us on this matter, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so interesting dynamics in here, Section 35. In fact, Section 35 of the Courts Act 1993, Act 459. And in terms of offers of compensation or restitution, this is what it states. I've read part of it. I'll read some other parts and then we can all await the ruling of the court. It says, where a person is charged with an offense before the High Court or a regional tribunal, the commission of which has caused economic loss, harm, or damage to the state or any state agency, the accused may inform the prosecutor whether the accused admits the offense and is willing to offer compensation or make restitution and reparation for the loss, harm, or damage caused. Now, when you look at subsection 2, it states, where an accused person makes an offer of compensation or restitution and reparation, the prosecutor shall consider if the offer is acceptable to the prosecution. Subsection 3 says, if the offer is not acceptable to the prosecution, the case before the court shall provide. And in the next subsection, which is 4, if the offer is acceptable to the prosecution, the prosecutor shall, in the presence of the accused, inform the court which shall consider it if the offer of compensation or restitution and reparation is satisfactory. I've already taken a look at sections 5 and 6, which is really 5, which is the bone of contention. Where the court considers the offer to be satisfactory, the court shall accept a plea of guilty from the accused and convicts the accused on his own plea, and in lieu of passing sentence on the accused, make an order for the accused to pay compensation or make restitution and reparation. And maybe 6 as well. An order of the court under subsection 5 shall be subject to such conditions as the court may direct. I mean, there's 7 and all the others that continue. But this basically is the bone of contention, and this is how far we've come. Again, like I said, we don't want to go or be sub judice. We'll leave the court to decide, but as of what we know now, based on the comments of Justice Baffour, his thinking is not exactly in consonance with what the Attorney General and his deputy, the department, is thinking. Come D-Day, when this matter is ruled on, we'll find out whether or not the case will come to an end or it will proceed based on the decision of the justice of the court. Well, we are going to take a bit of a breather, and when we return, there's a whole lot more you can expect on the AM show. We'll be right back.
It's 8:34. You're still on the AM show. I'm Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansah. Let me just mention to you that we've got our eyes at the Ministry of Information. We were expecting that the Finance Minister will address us at 8 a.m. as advertised. There's been just a bit of a delay, but we are there and we will bring it to you live once he starts speaking. But ever heard of the Ghana free zones? Yeah, I'm sure it may have come up in a certain conversation you were listening to on television. And there are some of us who have some misconceptions about what exactly the Free Zones scheme does. Well, this morning I've been joined by Benjamin Akakpo. She's Director of the Tema Administrative Office, and Mr. Jesse Ejapong. He's Director of Corporate Affairs at the Ghana Free Zones. Let me welcome you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us this morning. Let me start with you, Benjamin Akakpo. What exactly is Ghana Free Zones?
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers. The Ghana Free Zones actually is being implemented to encourage exports. So our mandate is to attract export-oriented investments. As you know, the country has experimented with a lot of programs. However, we have come to the realization that export-led industrialization is the way to go. So in 1996, the government implemented the Ghana Free Zones program to attract investments, mainly for the export sector.
But you're now an authority, Ghana Free Zones.
Yes, we used to be a board.
But
now
you're
we are
now
now
an authority. So in your about 26 years of running this, what would you say has been the most significant achievement?
Actually, a lot, but then the most significant is employment. So the Ghana Free Zones Board has attracted a lot of companies. Currently, we have about 217 companies, and they are employing about 32,000 people, most of whom are Ghanaians. And the next significant thing is the exports. We encourage companies to export at least 70% of whatever they're producing. So most of our companies are doing exports, and that has led to the export of various products. We talk about diversification of the economy as well, and the export products. You know, initially we used to export just timber, cocoa, gold, but now we have a wide range of export products that are going to the international market. The other one I want to stress, which a lot of people may not be aware of, is the backward and forward integration. So for the forward integration, our name Ghana is now on the international market because of the export products that we find on the shelves in various supermarkets around the world. And the backward integration is the raw materials that they take from the local producers. So especially for agro-processing, they are ready markets for farmers and for other inputs as well.
So let me come to you, Mr. Ejepong. There's a big subject that is always brought up when you hear Ghana Free Zones Authority. And I have had the opportunity to drive past your office, the one in Cantonment. And I've been interacting with friends or in the car with my siblings, and the notion is that, oh, don't mind these people, they always favor international foreign business owners. Why do people have that perception, and is that the case?
So that's entirely not the case. It's not, the scheme is not pro-foreigners or against locals. Over the past couple of years, as you ask about the achievements, we have currently 217 licensed businesses operating today. Of the 217 licensed businesses, 72 of those businesses are wholly owned by Ghanaians. Of the rest, also 71 joint venture businesses that are owned by both Ghanaians and foreign partners. And then 74 of those 217 businesses are actually owned by foreigners. So if you ask the question in terms of the quantum or the percentage of Ghanaian interest within the free zone scheme, then you are speaking something north of 60%. So 66% of the businesses operating in the free zones today have a Ghanaian interest. And so that clears the notion that we are very pro-foreigners. The Ghanaians are doing an amazing job.
So just to help us understand, what does it mean if a business is under the free zones
scheme?
Yeah.
So the business has to apply for free zones license. You'll be taken through the rudiments of the process. And when you are issued with a license and you have the license, then you can operate as such. You cannot operate as a free zones licensed business without the license. Again, interestingly, one of the big differences between the Ghana scheme and other countries is that we allow businesses to set up within an enclave.
Okay.
And you can either also choose to operate outside of the enclave if you have your own land or factory somewhere else. But the foundation for the question you are asking is this: you must be licensed by the authority to be called a free zones license.
And what are the benefits? What are the benefits? Why should people even apply to you to be a part of this?
So baseline, Madam Akolo here had made a point that it's important to put Ghana on an export footing. And part of the ways of earning foreign exchange as a country is to ensure that we are encouraging people to invest as such. So we had to create an incentive for businesses to be able to jump on board that. So part of the incentive is to say that export duties and levies are waived to ensure that your cost of production is much more lower. Don't forget, you are exporting from Ghana to Nigeria, from Ghana to London. Your products must arrive at a price point which makes it competitive. So if it arrives too expensive, then it will not be competitive enough. So what the state does is to give you waivers that allows you to operate as such. So those waivers are the incentives that we give to businesses to operate under the free zones license.
Let me come back to you, Patience Akolo. You're hoping that businesses would take advantage of the AFTA. We've been talking about it. It's headquartered right here in Ghana, in Accra. Tell us why you want businesses to take advantage of the AFTA and what kind of businesses you are hoping to attract into the free zones scheme.
Okay, so as we are all aware, I hope the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement allows companies to export into Africa duty-free, quota-free. And so now the whole of Africa is open to companies in the whole of Africa, basically. So the whole Africa is now one market. Now, we are encouraging exports. So it means that AFTA is basically something that we are already doing. So now we are looking at encouraging people to look at the African market. Exporting to US, Europe is good, but it can pose a few challenges, especially for companies that are not really up to scratch. But the African market is something that we know is familiar, and we can go in without the strains that are attached to exporting to US and Europe. So that's why we're encouraging companies, especially you talked about Ghanaian companies not being in the free zones. This is an opportunity for a lot of Ghanaian entrepreneurs who have something to sell to Africa to go into the free zones. Now with the free zones, we give them incentives. So like Jesse said, that makes their cost of production lower. So when you are going into the African market, then you go at a competitive rate. Right now, we are looking at promoting agro-processed foods.
Right.
You know, Africa is a bit homogeneous. We have about the same products. So we need to bring in some innovation, and then we can export our products. We are looking at cosmetics, because we have shea butter, we have cocoa butter. So we are looking at cosmetics, and we are looking at the garment industry as well.
Right, yeah, it's quite interesting. Mr. Japong, so briefly, what plans do you have to sustain this investment momentum?
So over the years, the leadership of the authority, let me say over the past 20 years, has created a platform to ensure that local engagement is ripe. Clearly, the cost of acquiring a foreign business against the cost of acquiring a local business is very different. And so local engagement has become a very pivotal part of our activities. This year alone, we had reached out to very key associations in Ghana. We've taken the investment drive local as much as we are going foreign. We've engaged with co-business, the very rich business-driven
cohorts. If you're Ghanaian, that's not a surprise.
And that was a very good engagement. In Accra, we engaged with the East Legon Business Club. We met them in a very casual environment, explaining the business to them. And that sort of nuanced engagement on ground is what we want to do continuously. Wow. We've always believed that the big umbrella effect is great, but having the one-on-one small cohort investor conversation is important. So the CEO, Ambassador Michael Quay, and the leadership will be traveling to the various regions, interacting as such to keep the momentum going. That's the only way we can increase the Ghanaian stake and interest in the free zone scheme.
And so lastly, there's something major happening on the 7th of December.
Yes.
Do you mind sharing with us the details and what you hope to achieve with that event?
Proudly speaking, our biggest platform for engagement is the Investment Week celebration. It's a period set out to do two key things. One, to communicate the essence of the free zone scheme. And two, to convert more businesses to join in the free zone scheme.
Right.
We've had two of the events already. The third one is happening on the 7th of December at the Marriott Hotel. You want to take part in it, you go to the website, the numbers are there, you call us. What do we seek to do on that day? We want to ease up the conversation around export. We want to encourage people to get into the export fray. We are bringing stakeholders who would answer the pertinent questions on production, pertinent questions on AFCFTA, pertinent questions on how you can easily take advantage of the global markets. The Minister of Trade and Industry will be speaking, and key partners from customs ensuring that the answers that help exporters achieve more is very important. As you know, our key tagline today is helping exporters to achieve more export. And therefore, coming to the program as an exporter or any business or investor who has a disposition towards export orientation is great. So if you come, you can get all the nuances and the approach and the support from the Ghana Free Zone Authority. And we are inviting all Ghanaians to come. Just register and partake in it.
Do you mind sharing the website's details with us, the web address?
www.gfza.gov.gh.
All right, so www.gfza, Ghana Free Zones Authority, so gfza.gov.gh, and that's the site to visit if you want to be a part of the Investment Week celebration, or if you want any other information on how to apply even for a Free Zones license and benefit from all that we've heard Mr. Japon and Madam Patience Akolo share with us here this morning. So your final words, there are those who may be scared of venturing into this zone. They say, is there a cap? Is there a certain level my business must be at before I can benefit from what the Free Zones Authority has to offer?
The simple answer from me would be no cap. Okay. We're looking for people who are willing to export. The baseline is that whatever you're producing, you must be ready to export a minimum of 70%. If you're not exporting 70%, or you don't have a market that would lift or off-take 70% of what you're producing, you're not ready for the Free Zone scheme. Okay. So our ask is that the world is out there for the taking. We're encouraging investors to put Ghana on an export footing. We need to earn more foreign exchange. And therefore, when you come to us, there's no capital requirement. However, minimum 70% of what you produce must be exported. I don't know if I'm sure Madam Akolo might want to add anything to that.
Okay, if I should add to that, we have a lot of SMEs now. Yeah. So probably you can't do the exports directly. You can do it indirectly by providing service to Free Zone companies. So that can also be counted as an export. Yes, so SMEs, don't be scared. There are a lot of opportunities to offer to Free Zone companies. Right. There's packaging, there's logistics, uniforms. There are a lot of opportunities. So as we bring in the bigger investors, we hope that the Free Zones, the local SMEs, yes, will take advantage and supply to the bigger players.
That's a brilliant one, and that's free business ideas for somebody watching us this morning. As she was talking, I was beginning to think about where I can find myself in there. What can I do to be a part of this whole Free Zone scheme? But thank you so much for joining us this morning. Patience Akolo is Director of the Tema Administrative Office of the Ghana Free Zones Authority, and Jesse Japong is Director of Corporate Affairs. And we've been talking about their annual Investment Week celebration and what the benefits of the Free Zones Authority is. You're watching the AM show. We'll be back. Don't forget, we've still got our man on the ground at the Ministry of Information, where we're expecting the Finance Minister to give us details of our debt restructuring today. We heard him. There was a video posted to the Ministry of Information's Facebook page yesterday, but we're going to get the fine details today. Advertised time was 8 a.m., but we are yet to see that live feed come through to us. But we will bring it to you definitely once the Finance Minister is ready. So do stay with us here on the AM show. Thank you. And I hope you've learned something today. Benjamin Akakpo there, bringing us Drive Safe. Now, 20 years ago, she began the journey of realizing her dream of becoming an officer with one of Ghana's security agencies. But that dream was cut short after she was diagnosed with HIV. Gifty Tokonu was sacked against medical advice and had to face the world all alone with her 9-year-old daughter. In the following report, Ernest Menu of our health desk tells the story of how the single mother living with HIV has dedicated her life inspiring hope and campaigning against stigma.
16th April will forever be etched in the mind of Gifty Tokonu. She received news that changed the entire course of her life.
The school organized the blood donation to Kolebu Blood Bank. So a week or two later, our then director of study ordered all of us who could not donate to avail ourselves for sugar diabetes test, which we all avail ourselves. So when the result came out, I was told I was not having diabetes. But he asked me not to go. I should wait because we were called to the administration. I didn't know what he was going to tell me, but I waited. So when everybody left, he called me back into the office. When I entered the office, he wasn't there alone. He was there with another officer. And she just threw it into my face that, Gifty, I'm sorry to tell you you have HIV.
She was utterly devastated. Gifty was only 6 weeks away from graduation that would see her start her life as an officer with one of the security agencies. But that dream never materialized when the security agency informed her that they cannot employ her because of her HIV status.
So I decided to confirm it. But I chose police hospital. So after the test, she told me that, Gifty, you tested positive. My brother, it was eclipse of the sun. I wept, I don't know how many buckets of water, but I got tears. So she allowed me to, she asked me to flow. I cried, and when I was okay, she gave me the post-test counseling. But then there was nothing like antiretroviral. So all she told me is that I should just eat well because there is no medicine. She gave me 2 envelopes. So this is your result. It's yours. Don't give it to anybody. But take this envelope and give to them. I don't know what was in the envelope. Whether she's asking them to sack me, I don't know. So out of curiosity, I opened the envelope on the way. And she wrote, the statement was long, but 19 years now, what I can remember is that the end tail of the letter, she said, our client is strong and healthy. Don't do anything stupid to her. She used the word stupid. So I said, okay, since she's not asking them to sack me, then I have the room to go back. So I got to the school, my colleagues were in the classroom because I went a day after they reported. So when I got there, immediately I got into the training school, he spotted me. So he asked me to follow him to the office. I did follow him, and what he told me was that order from above said you should go home. On what basis are you asking me to go home? Order from above said you should go. You are a recruit, listen to me. No written letter. I went home by verbal instruction.
The strong stigma and the fear of death consumed her. She then decided to end it all immediately.
Life became so difficult for me now. I have nothing to lay my hand on. My work has been taken away from me. Now, calls to disturb me with others. So I concluded that let me take my life. A few days later, I prepared my own concoction, which I will not disclose. I prepared my own concoction. I took it. Yes, I did. I did took it. Just want to leave this world and be free. So I took it, but I went to sleep. Nothing happened. If not today that I'm telling you, no one knew I tried taking medication to kill myself because I was tired of this life.
But after this failed attempt at suicide, her life took another turn. A radio show on HIV on Joy FM will be the trigger for her open disclosure of her status and her new life as an HIV ambassador.
I think 2007, there was HIV DEBA, World AIDS Day at Obra Sports. And when I was going on my way, I was in Odoko Trotro, that long bus, and I Joy FM. Joy FM was discussing about HIV on a very negative manner, which I got angry in the car. I took my phone and then called and then blasted them about how they were saying. In fact, the way they were discussing it looks as if everybody that gets HIV being immoral and stuff. So that is why I attacked them. But I was on my way going to the Deba. So when I got to the Deba, our then president wanted someone to disclose to the public for people to know that if you have HIV, you don't look that sick that people think. Everybody refused. And I don't know, I was just carried from the chair and I moved to the podium and I spoke. And I finished doing it before I realized that I did something. So when I did, somebody
Apologies, we had to cut in that story to take you live to the Ministry of Information. We'll bring you that story in subsequent bulletins and during Joy Prime News at 8 p.m. But now let's take you live to the Ministry of Information, where the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, is expected to address the nation and give us updates on the economy, especially details on our debt restructuring.
In the evening of yesterday, Sunday, 4th December 2022, we are gathered here today to invite holders of domestic debt to voluntarily exchange approximately 137 billion Ghana cedis of the domestic notes and bonds of the Republic, including Estla and Dache bonds, for a package of new bonds to be issued by the Republic. The debt sustainability analysis demonstrated unequivocally that Ghana's public debt is unsustainable and that the government may not be able to fully service its debt down the road if no action is taken now. Indeed, debt servicing is now absorbing more than half of total government revenues and almost 70% of tax revenues, while our total public debt stock, including that of state-owned enterprises and all, exceeds 100% of our GDP. This is why we are today announcing the debt exchange, which will help in restoring our capacity to service debt. This is the path towards resetting the economy to a more stable one capable of addressing the development challenges of the country. The reasons are quite clear. COVID-19 pandemic, rising global food prices, rising crude oil and energy prices, and the Russia-Ukraine war adversely affected Ghana's macroeconomy with spillovers to the financial sector. The combination of adverse external shocks have exposed Ghana to a surge in inflation, a large exchange rate depreciation, and stress on the financing of the budget, which taken together have put our public debt on an unsustainable path. To address the ongoing economic crisis, the government has requested financial support from the International Monetary Fund. We expect to reach a staff-level agreement soon on an IMF program aimed at restoring macroeconomic stability and protecting the most vulnerable. To this end, as a government, we are determined to implement wide-ranging structural and fiscal reforms to restore fiscal and debt sustainability and support growth. Consistent with all the above, I announced during the budget statement presented to Parliament on November 24th that government will undertake a debt operation program. We presented to you the contours of the domestic debt exchange program yesterday. As you are aware, we established a consultative committee to work with the financial sector and incorporated their advice in our decisions. Today, we are here to officially launch Ghana's domestic debt exchange program. The objective of this program is to alleviate the debt burden in a most transparent, efficient, and expedited manner. In this context, by means of an exchange offer. The government of Ghana has been working hard to minimize the impact of the domestic debt exchange on investors holding government bonds. In particular, it does not embed any principal haircut on eligible bonds as we promised. Let me repeat this fact as plainly as I can. In this debt exchange, individuals holding domestic bonds will not lose, are not affected by the value of their investment will be retained. So let us remove any doubt and discard any speculation that the government is about to cut your retirement savings or the notional value of your investment. This is not the case. As already announced, Treasury bills are completely exempted and all holders will be paid the full value of their investment on maturity. There will be no haircut on the principal of bonds. Individuals who hold bonds would also not be affected at all. Our domestic debt operation involves an exchange for new Ghana bonds with a coupon that steps up to 10% as soon as 2025, with zero interest in 2023, and the first interest payment in 2024, and longer average maturity for the bonds. Existing domestic bonds as of 1st December 2022 will be exchanged for a set of 4 new bonds maturing in 2027, 2029, 2032, and 2037. Predetermined allocation ratios are as follows: 17% for the short bonds, 17% for the intermediate bonds, 25% for the medium-term bonds, and 41% for the long-term bonds. The annual coupon on all these new bonds will be set, as I mentioned, at 0% in 2023, 5% in 2024, and 10% from 2025 until maturity. Coupon payments will be semi-annual. For emphasis, this domestic debt exchange program will not affect individual bondholders. This domestic debt exchange is part of a more comprehensive agenda to restore debt and financial sustainability. We are also working towards a restructuring of our external indebtedness, which we will announce in due course. This is a key requirement to allow Ghana's economy to recover as fast as possible from this crisis. This is also a key requirement to secure an IMF support. We are confident that of the measures we are putting in place, including those outlined in the 2023 budget statement and underpinned by a successful IMF program, Ghana will witness a stable and thriving economy from 2023. We accordingly anticipate that inflation will be returned to single digits, ensuring that real return on these new bonds will be protected. As His Excellency the President declared in his address to the nation on 30th October 2020, and I quote, "To restore and sustain debt sustainability, we plan to reduce our total public debt to GDP ratio to some 55% in present value terms by 2028. This can only be achieved through the active participation of all key economic actors. In that perspective, we call upon all domestic debt holders to take their share in ensuring that public debt sustainability is quickly restored by participating in this exchange program. Our pledge to you all is that government will take all appropriate measures to safeguard the solvency of the financial institutions involved in the exchange. Thanks to well-targeted regulatory measures and the creation of a financial stability fund, banks, pension funds, insurance companies, fund managers, and collective investment schemes will be supported to ensure that they are able to meet the obligations to their clients as they fall due. For this reason, the Governor of the Bank of Ghana will follow suit with details of the necessary assistance in due course. We have also dialogued extensively with regulators across the financial sector including the Securities and Exchange Commission, National Insurance Commission, and the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, to agree that regulatory forbearance will be provided to all entities whose financial position is adversely affected by virtue of participating in this exchange. This debt exchange provides an orderly way to put our economy back on track. These efforts will be complemented by fiscal measures to protect the neediest and most vulnerable in society. The government expects overwhelming support to this exchange, and in truth, the success of this necessary endeavor depends, of course, upon the public's cooperation. That would also mean the media being helpful in disseminating the right information to economic actors. We are all in this together, and we intend to get out of this together. The alternative will be a far worse economic crisis with protracted closure from international markets, including imported goods and services, and further domestic economic instability, both for the real economy and the financial sector. It would also mean depleted fiscal resources to support the neediest. Ghana is not the first nation to undertake such domestic debt operation. To illustrate the point, let me cite examples of just 2 countries among many others in the last decade. Jamaica resorted to such operations in the past, notably in 2010 and 2013. In both cases, it shows the sense of responsibility of the American people and proceeded through a voluntary approach. The approach was highly successful, as more than 99% of holders of domestic bonds participated in the exchange. On the contrary, in the case of Greece, the authorities chose to undertake a coercive approach, whereby a law was passed to force people into participating. We intend to avoid as much as possible the Greek approach as we strive to reach a consensual solution with our bondholders, which really is the Ghanaian way. In any case, the good news is that the domestic debt exchange has yielded positive results both in Greece and Jamaica and many others, and will certainly put our economy on a much stronger footing. Greece, as you know, has now recovered full market access. We certainly anticipate a similar success story in Ghana. I want to assure you about the government's commitment to do what is necessary to ensure that we succeed. Ladies and gentlemen, today's announcement is a major policy step that the government is taking over the short period to restore macroeconomic stability, achieve debt sustainability, and get the economy fully back on track in order to create and protect jobs, provide and enhance incomes, foster strong and inclusive growth led by exports, and restore hope to the Ghanaian people. In all humility, I wish to remind each and every one of us that Ghana is the only home we have. Its progress and prosperity are our collective duty. We have overcome many challenges and risen to the occasion many times before. We are a resilient society. Thankfully, today our development is in a far more advanced stage than before when other challenges confronted us. We have made big progress over the years, and the progress before us is even greater. This is another challenge which we must surely overcome, and overcome we must, for our sake and for the sake of our children. Together, we can beat this. Our ultimate goal, when all is done, is to put our nation into a sustainable development path, one of fiscal responsibility and rectitude, economic stability and growth that will truly translate into improving the lives of the people and all of the nation's economic actors, including investors. Your support, fellow Ghanaians, can help us realize this ambition. I say this because I know that together we shall triumph, and as in the days of Nehemiah, let us all rise up, family by family, and rebuild together. Let us make our Nkavom budget a reality. Thank you, and may God bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the insightful remarks, Honorable Minister. If I didn't take anything with me at all, I noted that no haircut on principal of bonds. That was so refreshing to hear. And also noted that individuals who hold these bonds are fully exempt from this debt exchange program. We have a number of media houses that are covering us across the country, and I'll use this opportunity to acknowledge some of them, and as and when we get more names, we will add to the list. We are live on GTV, City TV, Metro TV, TV3, and JoyNews. On Facebook, we are streaming at Ministry of Information. Kindly join us. I must acknowledge some dignitaries who have been with us that I escaped earlier. We have the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Reverend Daniel Ogbamitete, with us. We also have the First Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afari, with us. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for questions. If you have any question, this is the best time to ask. If you show by hand, Ruth will bring the microphone to you. You mention your name, media house, and then proceed to ask your question. Okay. Kindly keep the questions brief so that we can take more questions.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Stella G. Sogli. I work with Ghana Web. So I heard the Honorable Minister say that individual bondholders will not be affected. So can you give us a vivid breakdown of the particular people whose debt instruments will be affected? Because there's been reports in the media that some EcoBank, DataBank, and other people are losing part of their investment. So we would like to kindly know which people are going to be affected.
Thank you for the question, please.
Hi there, my name is Cooper Inveen from Reuters. I kind of want to elaborate on that question a little bit more. We talk about individual bondholders not being affected, but a lot of retail investors in bonds actually hold their bonds through pension and mutual funds, which I presume would be classified as institutions. So how would individuals who hold their bonds through pension and mutual funds be protected? Thanks.
Thank you for the question.
My name is Esther Edu from GTV, and I would like to know if the extension in the maturity dates of the bonds will not have a devaluation effect on their investment, talking about the time value of money for the bondholders.
Thank you for the question, Minister. We can take two more before we invite the Minister for his responses.
Okay. My name is Winston with Metro TV. I heard the Finance Minister say he intends to bring a single-digit inflation come soon. Already we are hovering around 44.4%. We have not yet seen any clear path policy-wise in how we intend to bring inflation downwards. Also, I'd like to inquire from the Finance Minister concerning yesterday's statement that the Finance Minister said the Treasury bills are protected as there's full redemption for the domestic debt, but the other local debt instruments, such as the fixed debt, bank debt holdings, are to be exchanged for 4 instruments with different maturity dates. So implicitly, there's going to be haircut. Compared to what he said, there will not be haircut going forward.
Thank you for the question. We go to the Minister for his responses.
All right. My name is Benjamin Akakpo from JFM. My name is Benjamin Akakpo from JFM. My first question has to do with market confidence. I want to know the plan government is trying to do to ensure that this doesn't affect market confidence. And then secondly, it's like everyone is taking a hit from this crisis. What hit is government taking to ensure that we all, we all contribute to getting this economy back on track? Thank you.
Okay, so I'll invite Mr. Akes for some of the responses that are related to debts. And if the minister wishes to respond to some other questions on policy, then he will take them. Okay. Oh, yes, please.
Mr. Akakpo is the Director of Debt, and he will be answering most of the questions. But you know, the last question was interesting for me, the issue of market confidence. And the challenge really for us as a nation is that we are where we are. The question really is, what direction do we take? Do we take an orderly approach to it with cynicism, or a disorderly approach to allow things to just go? And I think that's deeply the question that we should ask ourselves. Where do we want our nation to go where we are at this present time? And therefore, how are we going to evangelize this message in a way that says that this is the orderly approach? You know, we did assume an IMF program, which we successfully went through. So we should be hopeful that when we commit to this program, we also are going to successfully go through. And I think that has to be sort of the overriding sense of determination to get through this. If not, then we can't, as a people, walk through this. So it's important that we all take our personal responsibilities towards rebuilding this broken wall. Then you talked about the issue of what is government doing. It's a very interesting question, because if you look at the budget, you know, we agreed to a 3.7% adjustment, of which we front-loaded 2% into the first year. Now, that is huge adjustment to be able to go through that. Of course, there are the issues of, well, what do you do with government expenditure, etc. And the administrative measures that we took are not insignificant, you know, and those should be appreciated. World Bank is also helping us to look individually at all of these flagship programs, etc., so that, you know, we'll be able to make them more efficient. But truly, this is a junction that we have to make a decision as a nation to go forward, think through the orderliness of it going forward, and know that whether it's Greece or Jamaica or Ghana, that we shall succeed and triumph in that. And I think we really need to get into a very positive mindset, you know, hold us accountable, but all of us, family by family, participate in what is ahead of us. So I'll have Mr. Akakpo, who is a technical person, director at the ministry, you know, go through maybe a few presentations on some technical issues, and through that also respond to the various questions that you have put before us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And I would spend some bit of time to explain some of the issues that have been put on the table. And I think I will add on to the Honorable Minister, so I'll follow from the side. There are a lot of that. The market confidence can be measured scientifically. As you can see, on 29th of November 2022, Moody's downgraded Ghana again. This year, we've had all the three major sovereign credit rating agencies downgrading Ghana. These three command more than 98% of the world's global ratings. And since 2003, this is the lowest level we've ever been. And that is a sign of the confidence of the market. Again, you can also look at the second indicator, something that the finance people call the spread. So the spread is just measuring all the available instruments for investors to fund, and then picking the most safe of all of it, and then measure all the others to that. Now, when you cross 1,000 basis points, then it's a sign of how the market see you as a risk. And at that point, we had reached almost about 3,000. Now, if that reaches 3 months, it's temporal. If it's 6 months, it's temporal. When it gets to 1 year, then it is becoming permanent. And that means we must do something about it to restore the confidence. So the question you asked can be explained from this nomenclature. And when you read the fine lines of their report, you will see that they mention in very subtle sense that if we turn the economic crisis out positively, you will see that upgrades would go up, and that will show confidence moving up. So that will be a good measure for us all to have a look at. There was another question about the individual. The individual in this case is a natural person. All of us sitting here are individuals, so we are natural. I can see you, you can see me, you can talk, we can talk. So you're natural. And if you're registered in the CSD, so in the list that you have, the CSD has registry of everybody who has invested in government instruments. So if it's an individual, it is tagged as such. So it's easy to identify who an individual is. But I think our colleague raised a concern as to what happens to a mutual fund. Meaning if all of us here put our funds together into a pot, and then we express Madam to manage it for us into government instruments, some private instruments, real estate, or any other asset class, what happens to you, the individual, in that pot? In that case, you are talking about a collective scheme. We are talking about all of us together. But if all of us are together, there may be a reason why you may want to go out as an individual. But in that case, the registry is for all of us as a collective sense. The decision individual will take usually must be seen within the bigger context of why you are an investor and then what you want to do going forward. The details, as Honorable Minister mentioned, of classes of assets like that will be dealt with when the regulators come and have discussions with you. So I think that answers the position of the individual. Now, I think I heard a question on a haircut. Haircuts can come in 3 forms, or it's in quotes, haircut. It's a simple name for restructuring or something like that, if you want to put it that way. But the first one will be, assuming you are holding a 3-year bond, and for whatever reason, I wouldn't be able to pay you back, and I extend the time from 3 years to 5 years. It gives me time on maturity so that I can pay at a later date. That is one form. Another form could be that I am going to take your principal, if you brought in 1,000 Ghana cedis, and I'm going to reduce that in a sense, right? So that can be, in quotes, a haircut. But in this case of the debt exchange, the amount of money has not been extended or reduced. And then in our portfolio, we have maturing bonds that go up to almost about 20 years or 18 years. But if you look carefully in the bonds that the Honourable Minister mentioned, it's starting 2027 to 2037. So between about 5 years to 15 years. And the mix will go for everybody. So a weighted average may be around 10%, so lower a bit than the maturity that we do have here. Now, somebody will ask, inflation now is at 40%. So real costs of funding should be about 40%. But at 40%, how many emerging market cost of funding? What business can you do to have this very sticky, high and expensive cost of borrowing? If I'm doing a business, then it means I have to apply 40% on top of that. Would a sovereign be able to honor that if I give you a 10-year bond and it's at 40 fixed income, 40% every 2 years, almost the principal is paid out as interest cost? Within the life cycle of 10 years, the principal will have paid about 4 times, not the principal. All of us sitting here, if you were owning our companies with that kind of cost structure, how would you fare? So on one side, you are benefiting from the interest, but it's also a cost for us. When you look at the economy together, all of these market players, both the borrower and the lender, are all operating. So the question is, are we happy as a people with that high cost regime? I think looking at your faces, the answer is no. So we may have to do something about it, and that's why the macro setup is key. And I think the budget in various paragraphs highlighted it. So the question here is, the principal is guaranteed. The ability to pay is also measured against the stress test that has been done on the financial institutions. Don't forget our money is in the financial institutions. These are heavy directions of things. And as the Honorable Minister mentioned, in Jamaica, in Greece, Argentina, in other countries, it is not an easy decision to make. It has far-reaching consequences. But you will consider the decision on the interest cost against the stress it can put on the entire financial sector and have a balancing act that satisfies an optimal choice across everyone. So the choice of the step up in the interest rates is trying to address exactly the capability and ability of the sovereign to be raising the funding to pay for that. But the question is not only on the interest. Look into the budget statement carefully. When you go into the fiscal, you go into the overall balance, you see 3 items there. One called net domestic financing, you see net foreign financing, and then you will see an item called exceptional financing. In the foreign financing, you see amortization of loans, meaning we pay back. You see amortization when maturities occur. But in the net domestic financing, where all these bonds are, there's no amortization. What does that mean? It means we are rolling over all the time. But in this case, these bonds are going to be what we call exit bonds. So in the first instance where the Honorable Minister mentioned 2027 maturity, in actual fact, in 2026, half of the instruments that will be in will be paid back. And the last of that in 2037 will be paid back. In 2029, a similar thing will happen. Half will be paid back in 2028, and half will be paid back in 2029. Similar to 2032, that will be paid in 3 equal installments, because the Honorable Minister mentioned 25% of the allocation will be there. So that's larger than the 17. So it will be divided into 3. So 3 years prior, all that stock will be paid. Then the last one, which is 2037, is large, but it will start amortizing 5 years before 2037. The idea is to provide liquidity. The idea is to ensure a balance of the coupon payment and ability to pay the stock off. Otherwise, the way we're going, it will have been difficult to manage that. So that is a plus. When you do a net present value term, that adds and reduces the risk involved in. So I think, Honourable Minister, I believe I've taken a bit of time to explain. It's a bit technical, but I think I've tried to give the, in simple terms, the answers to that. Thank you very much.
Okay. So we'll take the last set of questions. So if you have any question, show by hand, they'll bring the microphone to you.
Good morning. My name is Joshua from the Business and Financial Times. Given that 2023, the government is looking at saving about 31 billion cedis in net, that's interest cost. How much are we looking at saving, given that this debt exchange program is coming on from next year? How much are we looking at saving in terms of interest cost next year? And also, yesterday, the minister also mentioned that the fund which is being set up will be government-led. But I just want to find out also that would it be, just for clarity, would it be an IMF-led sort of fund whereby it will give some sort of confidence to any bilateral or multilateral partners that will come in? All right, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you so much. My name is Sani Abdurrahman. I work with the Media General, Ghana. First of all, I want to know, the conversation has largely centered on the domestic. Of course, we are here to launch that program. The international community, the international lenders, the external lenders are also anxious wanting to know what the engagement would be like in terms of the bonds they are holding. So if Honorable Minister can share some details on that. Also, in the 2023 budget, we've seen that the deficit or the shortfall is around 61 billion Ghana cedis. If you do simple mathematics, even 15 cedi to $1, that is like $4 billion. A lot of people are worried that that's not an indication that the government is committed to some sort of fiscal discipline, because in difficult times like this, we expect the government to slow down on expenditure, to signal the international community that there is commitment to fiscal consolidation. We haven't seen that. If there is any explanation that they can offer, I'll be glad. And
please, you've asked 2 questions. Let's leave it at that so that your colleagues will also get the opportunity to ask their questions.
I'm Natalie Nettie from City TV. I would like to know, can the individual bondholders sell their bonds to banks after the exercise? And if so, will government pay the banks the original coupon?
My name is Nanoye Ankra from Asase Radio. I want to know where you are drawing the money into this Financial Stability Fund. Also, what is the communication plan to get the people, ordinary Ghanaians, like people in the market, to understand this? Because this morning I got some indication that people were rushing to some savings and loans to take their money. So I'd like to know what the plan for communication is.
Thank you for the question. Okay, we can take 2 more. Okay.
My name is Winston of Metro TV. My question is, the Finance Minister said that this bond exchange program is a pre-requirement to secure IMF support. What other requirements are we not aware of? Can he give us more insight? Also, he said that the community collaboration with the Security and Exchange Commission, initially, the Security and Exchange Commission gave support in the initial financial sector cleanup. Are we to anticipate more economic challenges? Because in the report released yesterday, he said that they are to use every appropriate approach or measures to ensure the impact does not affect individual bondholders. So are they open to use any economic or financial method to their advantage without any control from the Finance Ministry? Thank you.
Okay. The final question. Okay. We'll take only one. That should be the last.
My name is Morris. I work with Ghana Television. I want to understand, at the Finance Ministry, was there any point where the team realized that our debt was entering into unsustainability realms, and what was done about it? Was this whole challenge a surprise on government or the Finance Ministry? Ask this question so that we do not come back, some few years later and talk about debt restructuring. And also with the media, I want to understand, how do we communicate this whole thing to assist government to boost the confidence? Because it is what it is.
Okay, thank you. I take that to be the last question. Unfortunately, we cannot take everybody's question, so please. Okay, so I'll invite Mr. Akes for some responses. Okay.
Thank you so much for staying on the AM show. We've heard from the Finance Minister. We've also heard from a director at the ministry, giving some details on what is referred to as our debt exchange program. Basically, the minister has been given details, asking for the support, basically quoting our support, Benjamin, and saying that this is collective. We must work at this together. He says we are in this together and we must get out of it together. So we'll leave you now in the hands of the news desk team, but we'll go back to the Finance Ministry for the answers to the questions that you just heard. But from Benjamin and myself and the entire team, thank you so much for joining us this morning. God willing, we are back again tomorrow with the show that puts you at the heart of everything. Enjoy the rest of your day.
would have seen a domestic debt service amount, and I'm sure that's what our colleague was asking. Now, that will be, if we do nothing, then that is the amount we need to pay via coupon transactions, and not on the stock that we are holding. So that also will be flexed down. But let's not forget that it's not total. The idea is there will be exceptions, like the individuals are out. That also has treasury bills coupon payments, so the treasury bills component will also be out, will be in the existing instruments as they are. Then the new one would kick in with the terms for 2023, as the Honorable Minister has mentioned. So one of the key outcomes from this is that those numbers you are seeing would have to have a natural flex. So that, I think, provides clarity on those two sides. Then, right. Yeah, you are taking me, you said you put the right information out, but you're taking me into the realm of guesstimate, because the issue the Honorable Minister mentioned is that it's a voluntary exchange. So there is not a clear element, because we are going to deal with you. It's not a by force. If it's by force, I can tell you with certainty. I can tell you 32 is off. I can tell you that the holdouts from individuals is about 8 billion. I can give you all of that with certainty. But once it has an element of voluntary, let's be careful. The right information has to be done rightly. So I'll beg you to just hang on to that. And not that we are not able to, we can guess what range it is, but we'll give you the right information as the time goes on. Then there was a question about the IMF and then the multilaterals. Yes, the IMF program that we are envisaging to reach a service level agreement as early as practical in the next few weeks, with your support. But also the IMF serves as a very good catalytic institution to kick in a lot of multilateral or bilateral support. So you're right, we can get a number of support mechanisms that will come in to ensure that the financing of the budget is complemented by those resources. Then you made a reference also to the element of fiscal discipline. I think we all cannot agree with you more. The fiscal discipline is going to be extremely key. Going forward with an IMF program, with our own laws and structural reforms, where most of them have been highlighted in the budget statement, and I would go that you take a look at that, will be extremely key going forward in terms of fiscal discipline. And I believe that one of the major things, I think somebody asked, how are we going to communicate? Under a debt treatment of this nature, communication will be extremely important. So you will notice that we would have regular communication with you. There will be regular flyers, there will be regular reportage, there will be regular engagement. The issues are technical, the issues can be difficult, and the issues may be unprecedented. So it is important that we inform you, we be with you as we go through the journey. So please rest assured that for most of you in the communication elements, there will be a lot of discussions with key actors who are here from the government side to ensure that it's done. The other question that I saw was the sources of funding for the Financial Stability Fund. Here, it's a combination of sources, both multilateral and then from ourselves. A lot of discussions. I think the details in there will be rolled out later on by the regulator and the central bank. But then most of the sources will be from domestic itself and external. And that is a very important intervention to ensure that there's a backstop that would provide liquidity for institutions to meet any demands that you would have. I think I overheard reportage that people are going to savings and loans to pick. I think in banking, when we have a run, we can run into a deeper crisis. I will call that these measures are to provide comfort for us. So let us exercise restraint and let us not cause unintended effect by this very, very important message that we have today. Now, on the element of, I think, Madam, I believe I've finished every question, or is there any outstanding? Right. Sure.
We did some local dollar bonds. How will it be treated? Apart from the domestic program or treated as external?
Very good point. This is where the Honorable Minister will come in. I'll still take my leave and then the Honorable Minister will be around.
I will now invite the Honorable Minister for his concluding remarks, but kindly note that there will be further technical engagement with the media beyond this live stream so that we get to, explain further some of the issues that you may not understand.
Thank you very much indeed. And I think you will be interacting with Ms. Ruth Botio. Could you get up so that they see you? And she would be the nexus for your discussions. But as you can see, some ARCAs and a number of our ministry directors, Agliko and Co., will be available for consistent interaction on the technical aspect of it. But I think the key thing really, when it's all said and done, is our own mindset as to where we are going and what type of trust and what type of accountability that government would also bring to bear. But we cannot afford a disorderly approach to this because we know the crisis is upon us. I think the question was therefore, I guess implicit in the question was, did we know that this was coming and we did not do anything about it? It just strikes me as odd for us to have this sort of two apocalyptic events in world history, and for somehow all of us to have been able to see it when you look at trillions of dollars that those who reserve currencies have been able to put into their system. So it's not an issue of a smirk or whatever. And if you look at the way in which we really invested in our people over this period, you expect a certain return over a certain period. If that is, cut short by events that you cannot expect, the returns to you do not come as they should. So yes, certain efficiencies could have been done, but let's be very clear that these years, 6 years, have been ones of unprecedented social interventions, which really is about building our human capital and turning the way forward. So we are here, and how best do we use these moments to build a stronger economy? That's what. So we really are looking for the media to truly participate with us, and rally people, because the extent to which our interest charges consume some 70% and sometimes 100% of our revenues is something that is not sustainable. And it's really a recalibration, therefore, of the whole interest rate regime so that we move into a sustainable orbit that we'll tend to continue with. But yes, let me truly thank you for your presence. We will engage. I think our deputy ministers have been on radio and TV this morning. That will continue. Ruth will set up a system that ensures that there is enough information out there for everyone. And the truth of the matter is that this may be one of the most effective collaboration of the regulators, the issue of liquidity, so there's no need to rush for your money because certain forbearances will also be given to these institutions to help. So in a sense, this is an opportunity to have a pretty orderly exit through this and use that period to also build up on the issue of an export-driven economy get our macro statistics in order, put our nose to the grinder, and make sure that we come out of this a much, much stronger economy than we have. So we ask for your support in this, and we as government also committed to fiscal rectitude and ensuring that next year, even though it's going to be difficult, is a year in which we'll cross a Rubicon. So thank you very much, Minister, for this opportunity, and thanks for coming.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, distinguished invited guests. I must say that before last night's announcement and today's press engagement, we had information about so much misinformation within the media space. I beg you, especially now that you know the official position, if anyone is out there to speculate and throw some wrong information around, use your platform to subject them to strict proof, the basis for which they are spreading those information contrary to what the Ministry of Finance and those who are working on this program have brought out. So we really count on your continuous collaboration and support so that we can engage in a lot more public education, as this topic is quite technical and so many people may not understand at first hand. I thank you so much for making time this morning and hope to meet you again some other time. Good morning.